Almost 2 years ago, he was diagnosed with an incurable terminal illness that numbered his days. Since then, he had been playing his favorite game over and over, and now, after 2 years, his time to die had finally come. But before that, he wanted to finish the game one last time. So, he started a new game and customized a character for himself. Choosing more than one genius trait came with a cost. His character would also have to inherit a negative trait. He chose two genius traits, and in return, his character would be terminally ill. Chen didn't regret it. He was terminally ill himself. So was his character. As soon as he was done with character creation, the next thing he knew, he was being pulled in. No warning, no loading screen, just sucked right into the damn game. And that's how he ended up inside. He opened his eyes in a luxurious bedroom. He was confused and wondered where he was. And when he had last felt this strange sense of deja vu, he walked around the room and looked into a mirror. Fear crept into his heart. What if he had become the worst possible character? In this game, his name was Nox. He didn't understand why that name appeared, only that the beginning felt like a crash landing. Here, his full name was Nox von Reinhofer, a member of the Inner Lunatic's third dark renowned family. This family had deep ties to the world's most dangerous criminal organization, Lunatic. He was the youngest of 5 siblings in the Reiner family. This bloodline had produced gifted children in both magic and swordsmanship for generations. Unfortunately, Nox was the only one born without talent. Our boy had come to resent the world for his lack of ability. In desperation, he made a forbidden pact with the devil, and thus became the most notorious villain in the Inner Lunatic story. Our hero was stunned to realize he had become Nox. He questioned whether this was just a dream. As this character, he was merely 14 years old. His elemental affinity was darkness. But when he opened his status window, he felt a flicker of happiness until he noticed that his stamina was only at level 2. He then looked at his negative traits: void revelation, terminally ill, curse of the weak, and frequent sickness, which included symptoms like cold hands and feet. He was shocked. This was the very character he had customized earlier. He shouted in frustration. He had been terminally ill in real life, and now in the game, he was dying again. This time, the character had only 1 year left to live. He couldn't remember why he had chosen that trait, but after thinking for a while, it came back to him. He had wanted to make a character like himself, a terminally ill one. He remembered sitting at his messy desk, dying with no one to lean on. At that moment, he had no idea that he would become the character he had created. Suddenly, a notification appeared. There was one unread mail in the mailbox, and it asked if he wanted to check it. He quickly opened the message. In the mail, someone addressed him by his real name, Chan, and also by his game name, Nox. He was shocked. Someone knew who he really was. Yu Chan, the name given to him by his parents whose whereabouts were unknown. He fell into deep thought. Whoever brought him here, they must know about the part of his past he could no longer remember. The message read, "You don't remember me, but I need to say this. It's been a long time. You did well over the last 2 years. You deserve to be here. Welcome back to the game." Our boy sat still staring at the screen, confused and curious about one line in particular. Welcome back. Our boy wonders if the messenger is trying to tell him that he is no longer in his old world, and that this place is now his new reality. The messenger responds, saying that while there is much about his identity he cannot reveal, he advises him to join the Eldain Academy. From there, he should build his strength and do his best to follow the main story as closely as possible. Once he does, the complete truth will naturally unveil itself to him. The boy is completely confused and finds himself needing time to sort through his thoughts. He remembers that he has been reborn as the final boss of the game, Inner Lunatic. But he is expected to follow the main storyline. And no matter how he interprets that, it always ends the same. He dies. He questions whether even if Inner Lunatic has become his new reality, it still doesn't mean he should give up on regaining his memories. He makes up his mind that no matter what it takes, he will stick to the main storyline and along the way, recover his lost memories. He wants to understand what he's doing in this world, and most importantly, survive. And if survival means becoming a true villain, then he is ready to take that path. Now that he reflects on it, not much has really changed from his old life. 2 years ago, he lost all of his memories, and he had been terminally ill. Every moment he lived pushed him one step closer to death, and he spent each day haunted by the fear of dying. The only difference now is the setting, the world he knows best. He asks the system for today's date, and the system replies, It's the 4th of February, 1812. Once he hears the date, he immediately understands that he doesn't have much time left. He wonders why not begin his 28th clear attempt now. As he reaches to open the door, an intense pain shoots through his wrist. When he checks the system, it informs him that one of his negative traits has been activated. Due to the effects of constant illness, he has developed wrist inflammation level 1. The system advises him to rest properly and allow himself time to heal. This makes him angry, he mutters to himself, questioning, what's wrong with his body? How can it be so fragile? While lost in his own condition, he bumps into a young female housemaid. She falls to the ground and immediately apologizes to the young master. He tries to recall her face. Her brown hair and light orange pupils seem familiar. He wonders if she is Rona. She begs for his forgiveness, insisting she has committed a grave offense by harming him. The only thing he remembers about her character is that she used to talk behind Knox's back. That's all he can recall. Still, he finds it hard to believe that such an innocent-looking girl would gossip about Knox. Even if Knox is a villain, he forgives her, but he warns her not to make the same mistake again. For a brief moment, he forgets the personality he's supposed to play and smiles at her, but it doesn't take long for him to realize he is supposed to be insane. He falls into silence, pondering the life he has chosen for himself. The maid timidly asks where her young master is planning to go so early. The young master replies that he's headed to the practice hall. All of the nearby servants are shocked upon hearing this. He then tells Rona to come along with him. Rona becomes excited, but at the same time worries whether her master intends to beat her. As they walk toward the practice hall, Knox reflects on his situation. After experiencing what it feels like to die, he now knows for certain he doesn't want to die again. If he wants to survive, he must adapt to this new world quickly. That doesn't mean he has no chance. As someone who has played the game 27 times, he already knows most of the hidden mechanics. He quickly glances at the status window to check the details of the game. Inner Lunatic. The system explains that Inner Lunatic features a storyline that pits angels against demons alongside the Empire, and it has a massive fandom worldwide. The unique aspect of the game lies in its vast number of customizations, allowing players to explore a wide range of playstyles. While lower-ranked traits, such as ordinary and talented, can be assigned multiple times, genius traits are typically limited to only one per player. Our boy thinks to himself that genius traits allow one to reach the peak of their field with ease, and yet, somehow, he possesses 2 of them. He knows that this game includes a concept called trait penalties, penalties that occur when a character is assigned traits beyond their limits. But by taking advantage of the system, which tries to analyze and compensate for these traits, it becomes possible to assign 2 genius traits. His assigned traits are swordsmanship genius and combat genius. These provide him with superior sword skills and allow him to reach the highest levels of sword mastery. On the other hand, he also has mana sensitivity genius. This boosts his ability to detect magical energy and makes his spell casting more efficient. Now, Knox is aware there are plenty more traits that can be useful. He continues reading the system's details. As a perk of being the main character, he can view the status windows of other characters. He also has a trait called Master of Acting, which lets him perform convincingly in any scenario, a skill he knows will be crucial in his current situation. Another trait is Steel Mentality. When activated during combat, it allows the user to maintain mental strength and stay calm in high-pressure situations. However, the real issue lies in the negative traits. Among them, the terminally ill trait stands out as the worst. But it's not the only one he needs to worry about. He finds it almost amusing that he's practically a walking hospital. The system adds that for individuals with cold hands and feet, entering icy areas without a warming skill is nearly impossible. Additionally, the frequent sickness trait means he will faint from illness at least once every chapter. He sighs and tells himself that he has no choice, so he decides to face things one step at a time. Suddenly, Rona comes to a stop and informs him that they are nearly at the practice hall. She asks if he truly plans to go inside. The young master remains quiet for a moment, then opens the door. The system immediately informs him about a new obstacle, Curse of the Weak. It explains that this curse was placed on him at birth. As a result, his growth rate is reduced by 50%, and he has twice the vulnerability to enemy debuffs. The young master makes up his mind. Before anything else, he must find a way to remove the curse of the weak. While he practices inside the training hall, he keeps thinking that no matter how many times he goes over it in his head, he can only come to one conclusion. He's doomed. Just like reading the beginning of the story, that's the final thought he ends up with, after thinking it through. After reading all of it, he suddenly feels weak and collapses onto the floor. Now he knows his limit. He can't even swing a sword more than 10 times. He had no idea the curse of the weak would make things this hard for him. After resting for a while, he slowly gets back on his feet and starts looking around. He notices a large collection of weapons nearby. The system informs him that this is due to the origin of the Reinher family, and suggests that he start with the sword. It also explains that when it comes to the Reinher lineage, there are many sayings that describe them well, but the most fitting title is the High House of the Blade and Darkness. They earn that title because of their unique sword skills that involve channeling dark attribute magic into their blades to cut down enemies. And it's all thanks to the Commander's Blade, also known as the Tyrannical Blade of Darkness. That very blade has been passed down through generations, from one family head to the next. And the tradition continues even now. Our boy starts wondering what all of that has to do with him. Aside from swordsmanship, there are many benefits to being born into a noble household, and one of the most obvious is wealth. Knox understands the true value of money, and he's honestly thrilled to have it. The Reiner family stands as one of the greatest noble families in the entire story. And that also means they're filthy rich. Even as their useless youngest son, Knox still has enough wealth to live the rest of his life without ever working a single day. And it's highly likely that his father, Tao, doesn't care whether he spends that money wisely or not. It's also true that Knox isn't someone who fits the image of a wasteful noble heir. His character archetype is already clear, but he's made up his mind to use every bit of it, all of it, until Rona finishes what he asked her to prepare. Still, he's a little worried that she might turn down his strange request. A few minutes earlier, Rona had come to him carrying a wooden sword, a towel, and some water. She handed them over and asked if he was seriously planning on exercising. He asked her if anyone else was nearby and then told her to come closer to him. Nervously, she stepped back, wondering if he was about to hit her. He quickly calmed her down and told her to bring her ear closer. He had something he wanted to whisper. After he finished whispering, Rona looked stunned. She told him that every one of his ideas was complete garbage, but he simply told her to shut up and figure it out. She agreed, but warned him not to yell at her again. Then she ran out of the training hall, saying he hasn't changed at all. Now, in the stillness of the training hall, he wonders how fast Rona will be, but he's fairly sure it should arrive by tomorrow. He drinks the tea she brought him, and reflects on how he desperately needs a solution for this curse, and his stamina issue. He never imagined it would be this overwhelming. Suddenly, the head butler, Robel, walks into the training hall and greets him politely. For some reason, the sight of him takes our boy by surprise. The system immediately informs him that Robel is one of the main managers of the Reiner estate and isn't someone he can handle carelessly. He's also the advisor to Knox's father and the family head, Teo. Our boy understands that dealing with Robel might be difficult. He's aware that in most situations, his father wouldn't pay attention to him, but now he wonders whether Robel has sensed something off. He knows exactly how to approach this. Knox looks at Robel and asks why he's here when he should be attending to his father instead. Instantly, he activates his trait, Master of Acting. Robel responds, saying he's here on the family head's orders and has something to report. He informs our boy that he's been instructed to attend tonight's dinner. Our boy is confused. He hardly knows anything about this family, so it's strange. He looks at Rob and asks if he's joking. It's genuinely surprising that his father suddenly wants to have dinner with him. Knox flat out refuses the invitation. The manager pauses for a moment, clearly wondering why the family head would issue such an instruction. Rob will then explain that a guest from the Styliner family has arrived. She has come to receive night training, and if the young master doesn't attend the dinner, it will anger his father. That's when our boy understands. It's not a request, it's a direct order. Robel narrows his eyes and asks if something seems different about him today. Our boy hesitates and tries to read between the lines, wondering if Robel is hinting at anything. The butler clarifies that Knox never used to pick up a sword. Yet today he entered the training hall on his own. He calmly asks what led to this sudden change. Annoyed, our boy raises his voice and tells him not to ever dare overstep his bounds as a mere butler. Whatever he does, and for whatever reason, is none of Robel's business. He emphasizes that he's in full control of his own choices. Robel bows slightly and offers his apology. After that, the young master leaves the training hall, still thinking whether Robel had noticed anything suspicious. Meanwhile, the butler quietly decides to report the incident to the family head. Knox, not expecting such a tense encounter with the head butler, feels anxious. He wonders what consequences might follow and glances over his shoulder to check if Robel is still watching him. He tries to push away all the negative thoughts and begins thinking about the young lady from the Styliner family. What could her true purpose be in coming here? That night, inside the grand dining hall, his family members mock him as soon as he enters. One of them calls him an idiot and jokingly tells the others that he actually showed up, saying they won't be able to enjoy the meal now. They even taunt him, asking if he still has regrets about this family, especially the twin brothers, Hearts and Alan. They don't hold back. One of them says he never imagined Knox would show his face here again, and even now, he still can't believe it. They gossip openly about how he looked at one of the maids and call him a lost case. Our boy sits quietly and thinks to himself, he hasn't even done anything. Suddenly the door opens and his father enters casually, saying that it looks like everyone's here. Our boy turns his gaze toward him and thinks, there he is. That's the father of this character Knox and the head of the Reinhofer family. Alongside him walks a young and stunningly beautiful girl. She steps forward, introduces herself as Talia, and greets everyone with a composed smile. Teo then informs the family that Talia has requested night training and will be staying at their estate for a while. He tells everyone to feel free to welcome her warmly. The system instantly notifies Knox. She is the heroine of Inner Lunatic, the character destined to oppose the future version of Knox. She is the one who eventually will drive a sword straight through his chest. Teo notices that Knox decides to make an appearance too. Our boy becomes slightly uncomfortable at his father's remarks, and even Talia picks up on it. The family head tells everyone to begin eating. The twins continue taunting him from the opposite side of the table. One of them brings up to their father that they should make the decision now regarding who will be the next to enter Eldane Academy. Teo becomes curious about their decision and believes it's about time such a choice is made. The system informs him about Eldane Academy, stating that it is the most important location within Inner Lunatic. Within that academy, students face various situations and fight demons, this being the core storyline of Inner Lunatic. After understanding all of this, our boy also makes the decision to attend the academy. And while sticking to the overall structure of the story, he understands that he must now gather allies of his own. Their father announces that, as everyone likely knows, Eldon Academy only allows 3 individuals from each family to attend. This restriction is in place to limit the influence of nobles. Since he has already used the first 2 spots on his first and second sons, the Reiner family has only 1 remaining entrance ticket for the academy. Our boy is determined. Before he begins forming alliances, he knows he must do whatever it takes to obtain that final entrance ticket. Teo declares that this is why he has decided to follow their family traditions. Knox becomes excited and tells his father that it sounds like he's suggesting a battle between brothers. Their father is caught off guard, surprised that Knox is the first to react. Teo affirms the suggestion and mentions the date. It'll take place 1 month from now. He continues by stating that they will determine their next academy attendee through a duel held in the practice hall. One of the twins tells him to keep quiet before he humiliates himself. The other mocks him, saying that weak fools like him, who've never even wielded a sword, stand no chance against them. Surprisingly, our boy remains calm and composed. He tells them they can talk all they want. After they win, the twins grow furious and demand to know if he genuinely believes that someone like him can defeat them. Yet, our boy stays focused. To him, this duel is simply another trial that he must overcome in order to secure the entrance ticket. He has no intention of letting their taunts distract or discourage him. Knox confidently declares that he will be the one to attend Eldine Academy. Teo watches his son's interactions, a little confused by what he's seeing. Talia, on the other hand, is visibly impressed by the young master's confidence and starts showing interest in him. This catches the attention of the twins and sparks a bit of jealousy. Knox quickly realizes that he has drawn the attention of someone he probably shouldn't have. After dinner, Teo sits in his office reading through Robel's reports. He tells Rob that just as he had reported, it indeed appears that something about Knox has changed. Robwell agrees with this assessment. Tao reflects that, had he not witnessed today's events for himself, he wouldn't have believed them. He wonders what exactly has caused this sudden change. He even begins to suspect that Knox might have been possessed by a demon. Whatever the reason may be, Knox has caught his full attention. The family head comprehends the situation and instructs Robwell to monitor Knox closely. Early the next morning, the young master is already in the practice hall. The maids gossip about the upcoming duel in 1 month. They also wonder aloud why running is the only thing he ever seems to do. Knox tries to grasp what the maids are talking about, but quickly realizes he doesn't possess the intuition for reading between the lines. The system then notifies him that his stamina stat has increased by 0.1%. He is shocked by the minimal improvement. He chooses to run because his greatest weakness lies in his stamina. The system informs him that in order to unlock the use of swordsmanship and combat genius, his stamina stat must reach level 4. He notes that if someone weren't as weak as he currently is, they would be able to use it without any issue. He tires quickly due to the curse of the weak still being in effect. He discovers that it took him an entire month just to raise his stamina by 1.9 points. The system reminds him that the curse of the weak is a debilitating curse that cuts his growth rate in half. It becomes obvious why, despite running so much, he was only able to raise his stamina by 0.1%. Adding to that, his terminally ill trait also has his growth rate. He realizes that to keep up with others, he will need to exert 4 times the effort. He wonders to himself why everything is so difficult for him. The system then informs him that his stamina has reached 15 and his mana has hit 30. However, because of his terminally ill trait, 15 is the maximum stamina he can reach. He decides to put that worry aside for now. Rona arrives, bringing all the supplies he had requested the previous day. Our boy is impressed. She's faster than he expected. He feels glad, believing this will allow him to make some real progress. Now, the only question remaining in his mind is how to break past the limit and reach stamina level 4. He looks over all the supplies Rona brought. He feels confident that using his own knowledge he can resolve this. He mixes the ingredients together and pours the contents into a bottle. Rona, watching curiously, asks why he needs all of these items. The poison is difficult to handle. The ingredients are those most people avoid, and they are quite expensive. Knox tells her it's because most people don't understand how to use them properly. Rona is visibly surprised by this explanation. Knox then drinks the mixture he just created. Rona immediately becomes alarmed, knowing that it contains poison. The system notifies him that he has consumed the poison of the 3-headed gorgon, and as a result, his health will temporarily be increased by 1.5 times. At the same time, the system initiates a death counter. He has only 10 minutes left. Rona becomes frantic and wants to call the head butler, but Knox stops her. He then eats the core, something clearly not meant to be consumed, and Rona panics further, frightened by what she's witnessing. The system confirms that he has ingested the core of a golem, and warns that his body will now begin to slowly petrify. Suddenly, another notification appears. The system announces that a hidden piece has been activated. The poison of the 3-headed gorgon is reacting with the golem's core. Our boy feels satisfied knowing that everything is proceeding just as he planned. The system explains that normally the golem's core is used to petrify individuals, rapidly boost defensive stats, or construct artificial golems. However, when combined with the poison of the 3-headed gorgon, a special reaction occurs. The gorgon's poison becomes diluted. Then comes the most critical message. The curse of the weak has been lifted. Knox is overjoyed to see this change. Rona, however, is still frightened and thinks her young master might die at any moment. But Knox knows there is still one more step remaining. He begins to unbutton his shirt, an action that terrifies Rona even more. Rona feels both anxious and curious, eager to understand what he plans to do next. To her surprise, he takes the poison and pours it over his head. The system promptly notifies him that he has used the dew of the remembering fairy, and the petrification effects caused by the golem's core have now vanished. It also reports that the DE is currently reacting with the core of the golem. To our boy, the entire process feels like an unusual kind of healing. The system goes on to explain that a hidden piece has been activated and the user will temporarily receive the trait called Blessing of Growth. Everything unfolds just as Nox had planned. The system then displays the positive blessings he has just acquired. Now only one item remains for him to use: the Rapid Stamina Growth Scroll. He tears it apart without hesitation. The system confirms the action, stating that the scroll has been successfully used, and from now on his stamina growth rate will be doubled. Our boy thinks to himself that he has finally eliminated the curse. With the Blessing of Growth suppressing the debuffs caused by the terminally ill trait, and with the scroll in effect, he knows that his current growth rate should be twice that of most individuals. This means he should be able to raise his stamina stats significantly faster. Suddenly, he grabs Rona and kisses her. Shocked, Rona stares at him and questions internally whether the young master is truly all right. She yells at him, saying that when he suddenly began taking off his clothes, she thought something was seriously wrong with his head. Nox then orders her to bring him a towel. Still confused and overwhelmed, she stands there, curious to understand what is actually happening to her young master. Nox considers that since the curse has now been lifted, perhaps he should go easy on her. He tells her that he is fine. Rona asks him if he's absolutely sure he'll be okay, even if she doesn't call the head butler, and wonders aloud if he shouldn't be resting instead. He assures her that everything is fine now. Still puzzled, she asks once again what he intends to do next. Our boy calmly responds that he's just going to run. In the garden, our boy starts running, and Rona chases after him while carrying the towel in her hands. From her window, Talia watches the scene unfold, puzzled about why someone as weak as him would accept a match against his brothers. Her maid, Emma, gently reminds her not to stare so openly at the youngest son of Reinhofer, explaining that it's considered inappropriate. But Talia remains confused. He doesn't even carry a sword. He just runs around all the time. She recalls that even the other knights of Reinher have offered to train him, but he turned down all of their offers. She's convinced that in 1 month he'll be beaten, and that will be the end of it. Despite herself, she feels concerned about the young master. Unable to suppress her feelings, she tells Emma that she'll be right back and heads straight to Nox. Our boy is taken aback and wonders why she came looking for him. He bluntly asks what she wants from him. Talia, slightly offended by his cold attitude, wonders what's behind his behavior. Still, she tells herself he's simply too stunned by her beauty to respond properly. She then questions him, asking if he's really certain he can defeat his brothers. And is that the reason he accepted the match? Does he truly believe that just by running around like this, he has a chance? Rona silently agrees with Talia's doubts. Talia offers to help him, but only if he's willing to accept it. He rejects the offer outright and tells her to get lost, saying he has no interest. Furious, she asks if this is how he treats someone offering assistance. Rona advises him gently that if he talks like that, girls are bound to dislike him. Annoyed, Talia snaps that he can forget her offer and just do things his own way. Then Rona sighs, saying this just makes things unnecessarily complicated. Our boy proceeds to check Talia's information using the system. He reads her traits in detail. No matter how he analyzes them, he realizes that she possesses incredible talent. In Inner Lunatic, most grown men have a stamina stat of around 4, but hers is remarkably high. Although it may not yet compare to the 3 swordmasters on the continent, or the potential held by one of the 4 great mages, he sees that at the very least, she has the capability to reach such levels in the future. He concludes that she should be capable of killing several demons, especially with her fire attribute. He's also aware that the fire attribute magic Talia uses will eventually awaken into white flames, flames that are used to burn the demonized Nox in the future. He reflects on the consequences. If he manages to make Talia his ally now, the story of the future will be altered far too much. So he resolves to find a way to stick to the original storyline while avoiding death. Still, he wonders if it's even possible to get along with someone destined to kill him. 1 month later, inside the training hall, Nox's twin brothers admire Talia's sword skills and compliment her on how quickly she learns. Alan comments that this is exactly what he expects from a member of the Still Reiner family. Hearing her family name brings back memories of her sister, who is far stronger and more skilled than she is. Talia remembers the time her sword broke during a match. She questions whether she can truly become a knight. Her thoughts drift to the lessons ingrained in her. A knight must never be driven by greed, must live modestly, and must be ready to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Above all, a knight must master the sword and its form to become worthy of the title. Talia also wonders whether Nox can realistically defeat his brothers, who've trained for years just by doing cardio exercises. In her mind, it's not possible. The next day, a crowd gathers to watch the match. Our boy and his brother stand face to face. Their father, along with other elders and Talia, takes a seat on the balcony to witness the duel. Tiao turns to Rodwell and asks what he thinks the outcome of this duel will be. But before Rodwell can respond, the referee steps forward and formally announces that the duel to determine who will gain the right to enter Elden Academy is now beginning. Both brothers stand tall, ready, swords in hand, prepared to fight. A few moments earlier, when Teo asks Rodwell about the possible outcome of the duel, Rodwell tells him that considering young Master Allen's past performances, he thinks it's a given that Allen will win. Teo agrees with him. The head butler then wonders if Teo is expecting something else. Because while he acknowledges that its true young master Nox has changed, he still doesn't believe Nox will win. To him, that would be outrageous and impossible. The head butler himself once walked the path of a knight beside the patriarch. He knows the art of the blade can at times be ornate, but other times it's very simple. How long one is trained and how seriously they've pursued their craft determine their level. And there is only one way for someone to completely overturn the odds and make a person who is ahead of them on the path kneel before them. That is a wall that cannot be climbed. Overwhelming talent. He also wonders if young Master Nox was born with such a gift. Teo tells him that the possibility isn't zero. And at the very least, if Nox was born with Reinher blood, then there is a chance that the youngest son was born with the talent of a sword emperor. Suddenly, the system notifies him that his traits, swordsmanship, and combat genius are inactive. Our boy wonders why he's so unlucky when his luck stat is so high. Now he's confused. Could his luck stat actually be in the negatives? He knows that in the end, he wasn't able to reach a stamina stat of 4. The system then updates him regarding the activation of trait effects. He remembers that during his training, his stamina stat increased by 0.1. He feels slightly relieved knowing that his stamina is now 3.8. While he's running to improve his stamina, Rona asks if she really has to keep running with him. He smiles at her and says that it wouldn't be fun if she didn't, and who would take care of him if she didn't. Nox then returns her towel and tells her to rest for now. She stays quiet and looks at him with anger. Nukes gazes into her eyes and tells her that she just cursed him in her mind. She denies it. In truth, our boy is impressed by her stamina. He looks at her details in the system and confirms his suspicion. Her stamina is 4.5. He's surprised to see that a maid is stronger than the average man and wonders what's going on with the Reinher family. He feels somewhat happy knowing that her starting stamina stat is higher than his, even though he's been training his ass off for a month just to improve this one stat. Still, it's a little upsetting for him. Rona informs him that it's already evening, and since the duel is tomorrow, he should get some rest. Now, inside the training hall, both brothers stand facing each other. His brother taunts him, saying, "Why doesn't he just give up? Even if he is the shame of the family, he's still his younger brother, and Alan can't beat him up too hard now." Our boy responds that his brother doesn't look like someone who wants him to give up. Alan tells him that he's right, and to be honest, he wants to impress the daughter of the Still Reiner family, and he believes Nox will help him with that. Nox tells him he's not sure if that's a good choice. Our boy knows that Alan's stamina stat is 8. Alan then asks if he has a crush on her too. Our hero knows that he can't defeat Alan using ordinary methods. The referee announces that the duel for the admission ticket to Elden Academy is about to begin. He also informs both brothers that they must accept whatever the result may be, and that objections will not be tolerated. Our boy feels a little nervous because he knows it's all over if he loses here. He needs to find his memories, and he still has to figure out who the person was that sent him the letter. He also knows that after the 1-year grace period, he will die. The referee asks them both if they are ready, then signals them to begin the fight. Alan is the first one to attack, and our boy defends himself so well that even he appreciates his own defensive skill. To Nox, this is the only consistent thing in the damned inner lunatic game. Both strike at each other with balance and skill. Our hero knows that if he loses here, he will have to give up everything. But if he wins, he can have it all. During the fight, the system informs him that his stamina stat has increased by 0.1%. Alan taunts Nox, suggesting maybe he hit his head too many times, and says perhaps he'll feel better once he hits him some more. Cecilia, who is watching the duel from the balcony, thinks to herself that worrying about how the youngest had changed was pointless. She simply wants the last child from this family to enter Elden Academy to be her son, Alan. She dismisses Nox's skills as pathetic. Teo tells Rodwell that he was looking forward to seeing how Nox had changed, and now wonders, is this all he can do? The head butler asks if he should stop the duel. He explains that if they let it continue, young Master Nox will take a long time to recover. Teo replies that Alan and Hart's talents are good, but not that good, especially when compared to his first son, Garen. They lack the ability to put everything beneath their feet, to dominate their opponents. With the overwhelming power of the dark sword of domination, he wonders who that power will be passed down to. That thought saddens him, and he instructs the head butler to stop the duel. During the fight, the system once again informs Nox about a rise in his stamina stat. Suddenly, the system confirms that his traits swordsmanship and combat genius have been activated. Our boy is already exhausted, but he's happy to have regained his traits. Alan asks if he's lost his mind. Nox immediately activates his skill, the Hour of the Genius. Our boy remembers hearing somewhere that geniuses and the talented each have their own hours during the day. He's glad that this is the genius hour. To him, everything appears to slow down. Thanks to this skill that alters his perception, the world seems to move in slow motion. He understands that perceiving an enemy's movements as slower and him moving faster are two very different things. He knows it will be difficult to fully utilize this skill, but now that his traits, swordsmanship and combat genius, are active, it's over for his opponent. With a quick and powerful swing of his sword, Nox knocks Alan's weapon to the ground. That one move proves his unwavering determination to win. Alan's sword falls to the ground, and Nox appears victorious. The young master shouts that it's fun. Alan remains frozen in shock. The swordsman knows he still can't afford to lower his guard. Not yet. He's well aware that the duration of the skill is only 5 minutes, and he must finish this within that time frame no matter what. He tells his brother that he had been going easy on him until now, but says it's gotten boring and suggests they end this as quickly as possible. He then challenges him to come at him with everything all at once. Nox turns to his father and asks for permission to face both of his brothers simultaneously. Not only his father, but everyone observing the duel is taken aback by his confidence. Talia watches in confusion, wondering what he's doing right now. Their father notices a shift in his energy. It's clear his vigor has changed, and it feels like he's hiding something. Choosing to observe a little more, he allows the 2-on-1 spar to proceed. But just then, Cecilia yells out, demanding they stop. However, Teo steps in and orders them to begin. Alan picks up his sword again, heart seething with anger, growls about how dare this brat humiliate them in front of their father. He warns Nox to be ready. Both twins launch their assault together. At first, the young fighter focuses on defending himself, but soon he switches to offense. Alan quickly urges his twin to move closer to his left side, but Hearts, blinded by rage, refuses to listen. The system notifies the swordsman that thanks to the special effect of Hour of the Genius, the proficiency of the Dark family's low-grade swordsmanship has increased. He's pleased to hear it. Now he can even track their sword movements. With his incredible speed and relentless attacks, he lands a hit on Alan's shoulder. Talia is stunned by the sheer speed and wonders how on earth he managed to pull that off. Alan looks at him in disbelief, thinking that even the shame of the family could evolve this much. All those watching wear that same curious expression. Hart scolds his twin, telling him not to get distracted in the middle of a spar. Soon both brothers begin to tire, and then the young master unleashes his full power. He thinks to himself that even though this is just a spar, there's something significant at stake, and simply swinging the sword feels exciting. Before long, he sends both brothers crashing to the ground. At that exact moment, the system informs him that Hour of the Genius has ended. He's relieved that it wrapped up already. Facilia, fuming at her two sons, shouts furiously at them. Knox turns to the referee and asks whether the winner has been decided. The referee responds affirmatively and declares that the victor is young Master Knox. Everyone watching the duel rises to their feet, even their father. Knox expresses his gratitude for their appreciation and politely requests permission to take his leave. As he walks out of the training hall, Talia thinks to herself that she must speak with him immediately. After leaving, he feels extremely tired, and then notices blood on his hand. He quickly realizes that it must be because he pushed the skill a bit too long. He knows that Hour of the Genius carries a major flaw. If the time limit is exceeded, it triggers a debuffing effect called recoil. The system informs him that due to the recoil of the skill Hour of the Genius, his lifespan has been reduced by 2 days and 17 hours. He recognizes this as the worst kind of debuff. It permanently cuts his lifespan and also makes him more susceptible to illness. Though he's already terminally ill, he's glad that the recoil didn't activate in front of others. He worries that if anyone had witnessed it, his acceptance into the academy might have been revoked. Suddenly, Talia runs after him and asks if he got injured during the spar. He isn't thrilled to see her. He is not happy to see that she is found out, and he wonders why it had to be her, when so many others were present in the hall. He cannot let Tao discover his skill rebound. She quickly asks him how he managed to win a fight between siblings with that broken body of his. The young master wonders what she is planning, but she simply explains that she has misunderstood him. She clearly seems impressed by his performance. What she witnessed over the past month was that Knox never once wielded a sword on the first day, and all she saw was him swinging a wooden sword clumsily. The fact that someone like him could win proves he is talented. Now she wants to know how he awakened such talent, and how he trained it. But after seeing the duels end and watching him when he is alone, she is confused and wants to know what is truly happening and why he is in such a state. Many questions fill her mind, such as whether he overwhelmed his siblings with his genius and talent. There were also rumors that Knox was good for nothing. She also noticed that he simply worked hard to achieve victory no matter what. When she notices him coughing, she asks if he is all right and tries to support him, but he rejects her hand and tells her never to touch him. He acts that way because he has been obsessed with gaming for the past 2 years, making it difficult for him to get along with others. He also knows that she is a character who will kill him in the future. She apologizes and tells him she did not know he was that serious about the sword, and she had heard that his body was weak from birth. Now she understands why he was only doing stamina training. She tells him she is sorry for misunderstanding him, and that acting like a good-for-nothing was probably not his intention either. She also mentions that Emma told her people could make mistakes like that. The swordsman feels slightly confused and thinks about how to respond because she is so honest, just like he has seen in the game. Even though he knows she possesses the traits of a knight, he also thinks that as the daughter of a proud, reputable Duke family, it must be hard for her to admit when she is wrong. He tells her that if that is what she thinks of him, then please do not tell others about the bleeding. She agrees to keep it a secret. While looking at her, he thinks he probably does not need to worry about others finding out about this matter. He tells her to keep her promise and leave. She feels sad because Knox did not pay any attention to her. That night in Tiao's office, he tells the head butler that it seems his guess was correct and asks what he thinks of Knox's talent. Rodwell replies that at first he could not understand why Knox allowed himself to be beaten up. But among the children around his age, and including all the other young masters, he believes Knox is the best. Teo agrees with him, but admits he still thinks Knox has talents he is hiding. He orders Rodwell to monitor all of his movements and do nothing but observe, no matter what he does. He also wonders if Knox has enough talent to inherit the supreme black sword. Teo tells him that he does not have much time left, and what Rodwell is doing is important. Rodwell assures him that he will do his best. Now it is late at night, and the system informs the young master that he has completed the tutorial quest and cleared his first fight. Knox knows this is a sword that becomes reality, But the game-like system is still present. The status window remains as well. The system tells him he will be given rewards, and that he has received free stat points. He knows it is a jackpot for him. However, he is not very happy because he ran for a whole month just to increase his stamina by 2, and they could have just given this to him earlier. He sits in his room looking at his status window. He points at his luck stat and increases it from 7 to 10 because it is not a stat that can be raised through hard work. In Inner Lunatic, luck is the most valuable stat. After completing the process, he decides to check its value right away. The system informs him that he has received the benefit of mass clear 27 times. He is surprised to know the benefit system is still here as well. It is a relief for him. He decides to do the gacha immediately, and a huge machine appears in front of him. He laughs, thinking that seeing this in person feels so alien. He recalls that when the luck stat is at its highest, the chance of an intermediate rank or above appearing was 95%. He looks at the different ranks, seeing 3 of them, with the advanced rank being gold, and the highest rank being rainbow. He wants to get gold or above. The machine starts its process, and a gold rank is delivered into his hands. It is a gold letter. The swordsman opens it, and the system congratulates him for obtaining an advanced trait, the Supreme Ruler's Awe. He cannot believe he actually got it. The system shows him the complete information of the skill. It is a super jackpot for him to think he would get a debuff skill, but he still has another reward. It is a one-time use skill confirmation voucher, and the system asks if he wants to use it now. He thinks that the skill he will obtain from this is already decided. It is one of the hidden pieces that can be obtained in the Reiner family, and in order to get it, he needs that skill. He knows Tao will soon gather all the siblings at the estate, and that is when he will use it. He wonders if it is almost time for him to return to the Reiner estate, since it has been a while since the graduation ceremony of Eldine Academy ended. Vaughn, the second son of the Reiner family, should be traveling around to train as a knight. He suddenly remembers that he needs to find the hidden piece and handle grain. There is no time to rest at all. The only fortunate thing is that he probably does not need to worry about Talia anymore. He is confident she is not the type of character to break her promise, and there is no reason for her to approach him either. In the morning, he reaches the training hall and finds Talia already there, waiting for him. He had already thought about this last night. He asks her if they did not settle everything yesterday already, and what she wants from him. She wants to know how he became so strong so quickly. He asks her if she has been secretly watching him train for a month, and she begins walking away from there. She pleads with him for at least a spar, and insists that he could at least tell her how he trains. He remembers that Talia was a character who always wanted to be recognized by her sister. Turning back to her, he tells her that before asking him something like that, or thinking about how she should train, she should first consider the talent she possesses. The young swordsman has never comforted anyone before, and he wonders what else he should say to her. After a brief pause, he advises her not to compare herself to others. Then he leaves the training hall. She feels sad and is almost in tears because he just walked away. While walking outside the training hall, he wonders if she will come after him, or if she will stay where she is. He also thinks there is no need to let her witness him earning the hidden piece, when she might end up killing him. As he continues walking, he reaches the Reinhofer family barn and sees a large number of horses gathered there. He knows that this place is famed for raising the best horses on the continent. There, his father and twin brothers await him, and the head butler welcomes him. His father tells them that he is sure they all know why he has called them there. He tells them that from now on they will each choose the horse they will be with forever. The young master already knew this and had been waiting for this moment. He remembers reading that horses are considered the holiest animals both on the continent and within the Reinher family. If they have decided to become a mage or a knight, they choose a horse when they are young to have as a lifelong companion. He knows that Eldane Academy teaches horse riding, and that the later parts of the game include many large-scale wars. If the horse he has dies, he will have to raise a young horse again. Plus, transportation magic is extremely expensive. He is not happy that horses are such an important mode of transportation in this game. But now he decides to choose the best horse. Their father tells them that since Nox won the duel, he can choose first. Teo warns him that he will give him just one chance. As Knox walks towards the horses, his father wonders which one the youngest will choose. He notices that all the horses are quite cute and good ones. After observing them, he finds one horse that is a different color from the others. He points at the horse and tells his father that he will choose this one. Everyone goes quiet, and his father tells him that he will give him another chance. The young swordsman wonders why he is being given another chance and thinks it shows just how bad of a decision they think he is making. Actually, he is loading the target stat window. After some time, the system activates and provides him with all the details about his chosen horse. He notices that its rank is high, and most summoned creatures are divided into ranks. Depending on their growth, they can rise more than one rank. He knows this means the horse can at least become the highest rank, and on top of that, it is an obsidian. His system tells him it is the rarest kind among the many out there, and the name refers to the type of igneous rock. He thinks if the patriarch knew this, he would have taken this horse himself. He also knows that right now it is not that tempting because of its negative trait. The system displays all of its negative traits, and he knows that from some perspectives it is an even more annoying trait than the terminally ill trait. He tells his father that he will not change his mind, and that he will go with this horse. He knows that, with his knowledge, he can save this horse. His father wonders why he would make such a choice, and thinks he might be projecting himself onto the horse. In the end, he thinks his son is just an emotional and weak person. Teo calls his choice a disappointment, and makes it clear to Knox that he hopes he will not regret this decision. After advising him, their father leaves. The twin brothers want to stop him, and the young master feels confused, thinking his decision really was disappointing. The head butler tells the twin brothers that he will watch over Knox and requests them to choose their horses. Rodwell comes to Knox and asks him to choose a name for the horse. He agrees with the idea and names him Carl. The young swordsman tells him that he will go with Carl. He used that name when clearing Inner Lunatic, and it is a meaningful name to him. He takes the horse to his bedroom because he cannot let others see what he is about to do. He notices that the horse's eyes look determined to live, just like he is struggling to live. He notices that Rona is present in his room, so he calls her name and warns her that if she does not answer right now, she will face consequences. She understands his warning and shouts that she is here. She asks him how he knew she was there. He orders her to look after his horse. She is surprised to see a horse on his bed because she is the one who has to clean it. He laughs and tells her that it is a sick horse and she has to do her best. She has no other option but to obey him. He knows this is a bit problematic, and what is about to happen next is going to be quite a shock. The real question was whether Rona would be able to deal with it. 3 days later, Carl dies and Rona cries for him. Her tears make the young master feel sorrowful. He knows that Rona puts a great deal of effort into taking care of Carl, and he feels slightly bad for her. He already knew that something like this would happen. He orders her to stop crying because she is distracting him. He reassures her and tells her not to worry because Carl will return to his side again. She stands there confused, wondering if something is wrong with his mind. He simply smiles and instructs her to get behind him now. He takes the scroll out from his jacket. Placing his hand on the scroll, he infuses it with his mana. Something magical begins to occur, and she becomes surprised to see that he can use mana immediately, warning him that this is illegal here. The first time he is unable to control his mana properly. So he tries again and warns her that if she keeps distracting him, Carl will die once again, and this time it would be her fault. He explains to her that he has become someone who has not yet awakened his trait of genius of mana detection. In this empire, using mana below the age of 15 is forbidden unless one is from the imperial family. Because of this, compared to other students who begin learning mana control later, the descendants of the imperial family are several times more proficient in magic. The only thing he can do right now is pour as much mana as he can into this scroll. At this moment, he begins to feel a faint energy emanating from his palms. He knows that this is mana. He finds it interesting because this scroll is a one-time use energy voucher, and this time, he cannot afford to make any mistakes. From now on, the magic he will be using is black magic. The system confirms that the skill book of the dead Necromocron has been obtained. The system also informs him that the target Carl can be revived as an undead. He remembers reading from the system that within Interlocatic, there are 2 types of beings possessing the trait of an undead. The first type are beings brought back to life through black magic or dark mana. And the second type are those revived without an ego reborn as stronger beings. He also knows that such beings would remain blindly loyal to their master almost to a fault. However, the problem is that there is only one family known to revive corpses as undead, and that is the Dark family, the Marvis family. While Reiner is also a Dark family, it is a Night family, whereas the Marvis family are black mages who control the undead. In that case, he wonders, shouldn't players who do not belong to the Marvis family be unable to use their skills at all? He knows the answer is no, because of the one-time use skill selection voucher he obtained. From it, he received the Necromacron, also known as the Book of the Dead. Rona becomes shocked when she sees dark blood begin to flow from the young master's mouth, but he wants to push it a little further. Suddenly, he notices that his mana is running out. At that moment, Carl comes back to life. The system confirms that he has activated the skill successfully. Carl is now stronger than before. The system informs him that his pet Carl has been revived as an undead. He feels delighted to have achieved this skill successfully. Now he looks at Carl's traits within the system. He is surprised to see that Carl is much more improved than before. However, Carl has some negative traits as well. He tells Carl that he will be his master from now on. Carl behaves in a way that shows he completely understands his master. Rona becomes emotional and hugs the young master tightly, telling him that she thought something bad had happened to him. Wondering how he can use mana so recklessly, she even scolds Carl, asking how he can also be so reckless. She shouts at Carl, telling him that she cared for him so much and orders him to spit out the carrot she fed him. Now the young master shifts his focus onto the hidden piece. A few days later, he goes out at night looking at the map and thinking that the road is not much different compared to the game. He searches for the second hidden piece of the Reiner family, determined that he must obtain this item. It is the key that would help a little in compensating for his terminally ill trait. He wonders if he is being too sensitive, but this is not a game anymore. This is reality. He reaches a point where he sees a notice board with a warning written on it, stating that this is Mia's forest, and if young children enter, they may get lost and die. So please do not enter no matter what. He thinks to himself that he does not want to die a second time. The system warns him that he has entered the missing child's forest, and that failure to clear this place will result in death. In reality, the missing child's forest lies within Reinholder's territory, a forest where entry is prohibited. Due to the darkness and thick fog, no matter how skilled a ranger or pathfinder is, they would still have trouble finding their way around here. He discovers that it is just like its name suggests, a place that causes everyone to get lost like a child. But he also knows there is a different meaning to it. Even if a fully grown adult kills a monster in this forest, they will not be able to obtain any artifacts. Additionally, the difficulty of the monsters increases if the intruder is an adult. He remembers that he died a few times here while trying to find the right way to clear it. That is why the difficulty rating of the missing child's forest is at least 2.5 stars, with 5 stars being the maximum. Since this is a game where the difficulty is the worst, he recalls how hard he tried to clear it without knowing what items would appear. Now that he thinks about it, this is the perfect place to find an item suited for his terminally ill trait. Lighting his torch, he begins searching the forest. He knows that the crucial key to clearing the missing child's forest is the direction of the smoke. To be precise, it is the opposite direction from where the smoke is heading. He shouts loudly, asking how long the person intends to keep hiding and suggesting that they reveal themselves now. Looking around, he finds no one there and wonders if the person is planning to hide until the very end. Right now in the palace, Talia is still thinking about him and cannot believe that her beauty had no effect on him. She is completely unable to understand this at all. Suddenly, her maid Emma requests her to please stop following young master around. Emma also tells her that if she keeps doing this, she herself will end up getting scolded. Talia calms her down and guarantees that she will make sure Emma does not get fired from the family. Emma explains to her that this is not what she means. Emma thinks that young Miss Talia is already talented enough for everyone to respect her as the next matriarch, and if only young Miss Chell was not around. She also wonders why Talia feels so inferior to her own sister and is being so impatient. Emma leaves her room hoping that Talia has probably given up and is sleeping now. However, when Emma checks her room, Talia is already gone. Emma wonders if she went to find young Master Nox. Quickly, Emma wakes everyone up in the palace. Talia actually manages to find Nox in the forest, which shocks him. He asks her what she is doing here. Suddenly, the young swordsman senses danger and tells her to get behind him. Both of them are startled to see a gray wolf approaching. He wonders if this forest is part of the gray wolf's territory. Talia realizes that she only has a dagger with her right now. The wolf begins circling around them and signals others to join him. Suddenly, the gray wolf charges at them. She feels terrified, but he remains confident. Staring at the charging wolf, he steps forward and with a single swing of his sword kills it instantly. She is deeply impressed and thinks that, although it was only one wolf, he managed to defeat it so cleanly. Nox looks at her calmly and says that he will ask her again what she is doing here because he thought his brothers would be the ones to follow him. She simply smiles, and when she notices a night stroll in his hands, she wonders why he has it. He demands her answer and threatens to leave her alone here if she does not respond. Walking towards him, she grabs his hand and tells him that she is not doing anything strange. Actually, it is just that he suddenly became so strong, and she thought about wanting to become strong like him. She explains that she looked out the window and saw him there, and she was curious about where he was going. As expected, she believed he had some kind of special training method. She tells him this is why she followed him, and upon seeing this forest, she jumped into it without thinking. Nox becomes certain of three things now. First, she thinks extremely highly of him. Second, she is not hostile towards him, which is a relief. And lastly, she is just a kid who does not understand how dangerous it is to follow others late at night. The young swordsman smiles at her and thinks that since she is one of the core characters, he cannot just leave her here. He tells her to follow him for now. However, he makes it clear that he is not trying to help her, but is simply resolving this situation so that his family does not end up in a bad spot. She accepts her mistake and apologizes for it. He hopes that she probably will not do anything dangerous again. She thanks him for saving her life, and just as she is about to say something, they notice a large number of wolves staring at them. The young master orders her to get away from him and hands the burning torch over to her. He instructs her that she should be on her way home. As he swings his sword at the wolves, he considers that there are some unexpected variables he needs to focus on again. He knows this place exists before the scenario begins, and since it is an area within the prologue, there will not be any boss monsters. However, an elite monster, one rank below a boss, will appear here, and it will be an evolved form of the Grey Wolf he just cut down, the elite Grey Wolf. But simply knowing who his enemy is does not mean things will go smoothly for him. He slashes at the wolves and starts killing them. The wolves continue their attacks against him, and he continues cutting them down. He recalls the words he always repeated in times like this back when he was Chan and played inner lunatic. Was he really the weakling? Talia watches him killing countless wolves and wonders if he has yet to reveal his full strength since his sword technique had looked even more amazing when he fought his brothers. She also questions whether he has killed gray wolves before. Meanwhile, Nox considers that she is still very weak. A very large gray wolf appears before him, and he recognizes it immediately as the elite gray wolf. Soon, many people from the palace head into the forest to search for them. They find their footprints near the forest, and it becomes clear to them that Nox and Talia have entered. Emma is among the search party and urges them to go in immediately. However, Rodwell rejects her idea and calls it foolish. Emma demands to know why he does not want to go in. Rodwell explains to her that it is a forest not even Reiner has managed to clear. The system shows that the missing child's forest is ranked as one of the highest within the Reiner family territories. And while the Reiner family is known to be the strongest dark family in the south, the fact that there is still a forest they are unable to clear is basically like saying they are incompetent. Furthermore, the reality that only children who have not become adults can enter the forest and that the forest can only be cleared successfully by children has not been made known to them yet. The head butler wonders why the young master entered the forest. He does not think the boy was bewitched by a mind-controlling monster. Observing the tracks, he notices that Nox definitely moved with care. There are also no traces of anyone getting past the strongest mana barrier of this estate, which means the young master entered the forest intentionally. He admits to himself that he was wrong, and can no longer deny that Nox is not the same weak and frail young master as before. Rodwell informs Emma that there is only one way for the two of them to return. The young master has to use his wisdom and find a way out of the forest. Emma becomes emotional, tears filling her eyes as she blames herself for causing her young miss to die. On the other side, the young swordsman continues killing the wolves. He notices Talia pulling out her knife, and he thinks she has not lost her focus despite being scared. He advises her not to attack unnecessarily since she might get hurt, and tells her to just stay out of this. He also instructs her to save her strength and use it to run away if she gets attacked, as only then can she slightly increase her chances of survival. He knows that killing an elite wolf is not particularly dangerous since it is only rated at 2.5 stars. He simply wants Talia to remain vigilant and able to react to her surroundings. Looking at her, he observes that she has learned well, even though she is not yet at the level where he can trust her to cover his back. He quickly activates Hour of the Genius. He intends to use this skill to kill it in a single strike. As the elite Grey Wolf leaps at him, he manages to slay it instantly. He then notices that the other wolves have stopped, but suddenly they start attacking him one by one again, and he continues cutting them down. This time, the wolves are so ferocious and aggressive that Talia becomes worried for his safety. She thinks that even though Nox did tell her to run away, if it became dangerous, she cannot bring herself to do that now. So, she climbs up a tree. Finally, he asks her if she plans on helping him. Talia asks if he is injured. He knows it's pointless to call her for help, so he assures her that he's fine. Yet, he understands this is not the time to be careless. She feels relieved that Nox isn't hurt. He grows uneasy, realizing he just showed her his pathetic side, and the recoil from his skill has already arrived. He knows it's not over yet. He notices the elite wolf finally rising to its feet. At first, the elite wolf circles him, observing his every move. Then, all of a sudden, it charges at Nox at full speed. But the elite wolf employs a strange technique. First, it runs away, then abruptly reappears, leaping onto him and injuring his shoulder before retreating again. The second time, it repeats its attack in exactly the same manner. The young master thinks it's supposed to be a 2.5-star monster, but the elite wolf is far more intelligent than he expected. He realizes he needs to revise his approach. He also notices that this elite gray wolf is smarter and more cunning than in the game. He knows it is hiding now, watching him, waiting for another chance to strike. The last two attacks took him completely by surprise. He regrets not recognizing its intelligence earlier when it was commanding the other wolves. And to think it would even exploit the terrain and geographical advantages. He knows he needs to raise his guard first. Suddenly, the elite wolf attacks again, and this time Nox lands a hit. But it has no effect. It seems like the wolf had been waiting for him to attempt a large swing and reveal an opening. The elite counters immediately, and the swordsman fails to predict it. He wonders if he got too excited just because he has cleared this game multiple times. He knows that was a foolish judgment. Then out of nowhere, Talia's dagger pierces its eye. He thinks that if the elite wolf can create openings, then so can they. The person who created that unexpected variable was Talia. Seizing the opportunity, he slays the elite gray wolf with a single swing of his sword. Talia notices two other wolves observing their battle, and when Nox manages to kill the elite, they retreat. Watching this, she descends from the tree and runs toward him. She wants to know if he is all right. He tells her he survived only because of her, and thanks her for it. After expressing his gratitude, he wonders if he just thanked the enemy who will kill him in the future. But for now, it's not his concern. She asks if he got injured just now, having noticed some large wounds on his shoulder. He replies that it's only a slight wound, and there is nothing to worry about. She feels relieved that he isn't hurt elsewhere. Suddenly, a tiny spider jumps onto her shoulder, and she screams that it's another monster. She quickly leaps into his arms and clings to him tightly. She tells him there is a spider and clings to him tightly. The young master wonders how long she intends to hang on to him. He is also curious whether she is truly afraid of the spider or if she simply wants to hug him. He casually flicks the spider away and questions her, asking if something like a spider scares her. Then why on earth did she follow him into the forest? She asks if he isn't scared of spiders. The swordsman responds that, with fear like that, she definitely won't be able to become a knight. Upon hearing this, she becomes angry and steps back from him. He smiles, thinking that finally she let go of him. He knows he survived only because of her, but he feels hesitant to say this and she might suddenly scream. Now they just need to get out of the forest. It is morning now and the search party is still waiting outside the forest. Emma is worried, wondering whether they survived or not. She feels anxious thinking that Miss Talia's disappearance could create problems between both families. Rodwell reflects that since many children in this area go missing within the missing child forest, there are people who secretly claim that the Reiner family is incompetent. Suddenly, Emma points towards the forest and informs the others that the fog of the forest is beginning to lift. Now they see that the missing child forest has been cleared. She does not know for sure, but that is what she thinks it is. The fact that the miasma is being lifted. Rodwell confirms her observation and tells her she is right. He explains that it means the forest has been cleared, and the only possibility they were thinking of has turned into reality. Now all of them enter the forest, and Emma tells the others that it means their young master did it. Suddenly they notice the young master and Talia coming out of the forest. One servant remarks that to think he could really clear the forest is hard to believe, and that he is coming out as if nothing happened. Rodwell thinks he can't help but smile. Now he is certain that the hierarchy of the descendants within the Reiner family is about to experience great turmoil. Knox looks at the search party and wonders why everyone is gathered here. Emma runs towards Talia and hugs her, telling her they were so worried about her. Rodwell informs the young master that the family was worried about his disappearance as well. Knox finds it hard to believe that the family would worry over a good-for-nothing like him, thinking it is only because their dark family's reputation is at stake. Emma wants to remind Talia about the 7 rules of the Still Reiner family again, and urges her to follow her. Talia apologizes once more, repeating that she is sorry. Emma laughs and tells her that, as a lowly maid, how could she dare blame Talia for it, adding that the patriarch will be teaching her the rules personally. Knox thinks that it looks like this maid has extraordinary stamina too. When he checks her status, he sees her stamina is 4.5. Emma approaches the swordsman and thanks him for protecting their young miss. Talia thinks that she did not even have the intention of going with him. He tells her that she pulled her own weight and advises her not to beat herself up too much. After that, they all return to the palace. The young master goes to his bedroom, thinking that it is over for now. He reflects that Rodwell waiting outside the forest with the knights was totally unexpected. He wonders if it was because of Talia. But even so, he obtained the hidden piece. The system confirms that he has obtained a new artifact. It is an accessory called the Black Flame Ring. The system informs him about its basic information in detail. He reads about its special effect, which states that when he defeats a target while equipping it, he will steal a very small amount of their life force and convert it into his own. Furthermore, the higher the rank of the target defeated, the more life force he will steal. Now, he knows that the only artifact capable of stealing someone else's life force is this Black Flame Ring. However, he also understands that having this ring does not mean he will gain a longer life, because one's life cannot be extended infinitely. Considering that only a very small amount of life force can be stolen, he realizes it will not be easy to overcome his terminal illness. Still, he believes that, as long as he can struggle and progress, it is far better than living a hopeless life on the verge of death. He slips the ring onto his finger. Now he can definitely feel his life force and mana arising. He calls Rona to come in for a short while, knowing she is just outside his room. Within seconds, she enters, and wonders if he is able to see through things. He tells her that maybe he can. That thought scares her, and she asks him if he can see her naked body too. The young master becomes angry and shouts at her, demanding to know what on earth she is talking about, then flicks her forehead with his finger. She tells him that it hurts and wonders why his finger flick feels even more painful than usual. He tells her to stop talking nonsense and offers to arm wrestle again. She asks him if she wins again this time, will he really increase her salary? He agrees and asks her what if she loses. She also bets 20% of her salary. Both agree to the bet. This time, however, he defeats her within a second. She is surprised to see this outcome, After losing, she asks if he really thinks it is befitting of a reputable family son to reduce a servant's already pitiful salary by 20%. He smiles and agrees with her, saying that as the rumored good-for-nothing of the Reiner family, he has decided not to care about trivial things like honor. She bows before him and gives her apologies. The system informs him that the effects of his frequent sickness have been activated and he has obtained wrist fracture level 2. He becomes annoyed by these negative traits. He tells Rona that he will cancel her salary reduction, and in return she must go and bring him some ice and a wet towel. She is worried, thinking that her young master does not look too well. The swordsman thinks that for now, he will be satisfied with obtaining the ring. Now he just needs to get some rest. Time passes by and the two hidden pieces, Carl and the Black Flame ring, remain with him. It has been 6 months since he obtained them, and regretfully, there has not been a chance to use either. Then came the decision that Nox has been grounded. It is not as though he got into any trouble. He even cleared the missing child's forest. He cannot believe he is grounded when they should be rewarding him. It feels unbelievable to him. He turns to Rona and asks if she agrees with him. She simply responds that she is a maid belonging to the family, and that her salary would be reduced if she spoke poorly of the patriarch. Nox swears upon his hand that her salary will be reduced if she does not act according to his preferences. Hearing his threat, she quickly tells him that the patriarch is way too harsh on him. She also mentions that he could not even understand how she felt. He thinks about how he has been working hard to adapt to this life, living a pretty productive life while watching Carl's growth. However, he knows he cannot carry on like this because his life is being shortened even now. The system shows him the remaining life he has left, due to terminal illness, is 147 days. He thinks that this darn system seems more interested in his life than he is. He sarcastically thanks the system for explaining it so nicely. Finally, he decides that he cannot take it anymore and must go to his father and get permission to go out somehow. Rona knocks on his door and tells him that she has just warmed up more bathing water for him. Suddenly, Rodwell enters his room and informs him that the patriarch has summoned him. His father sits in his office thinking about the night of slaughter and how he killed countless monsters and demons. He remembers the time when demons were swarming everywhere and the humans who were caught among them during the night of slaughter. He recalls that it was like a disaster. He hopes that someday one of his sons will probably learn the supreme black sword, yet he knows he cannot rely on probabilities. He needs talent that is certain because one of them will have to kill him. Rodwell enters his office and informs him that the young master will soon be here. Teo thinks to himself that Nox is late and tells Rodwell to send him in right away. He thinks about how the missing child's forest is a place that not even he knows how to clear, and to think Nox was able to clear that place, it would be appropriate to reward him. Teo tells his son that he had summoned him to discuss his reward, and that he can have just one request. He will fulfill just one request, no matter what it is. The young swordsman thinks about it and wonders what one thing he should ask for. It is the first time his father has ever asked him for a request for a reward. He also knows his father is usually authoritative and stern. He even doubts this is a trap. He feels as if someone just shot him in the head, or as if someone just slashed him from behind. He asks his father if he can ask for anything. His father repeats that he will grant him anything. And as the patriarch of Reiner, he promises to grant him anything, swearing it upon the long-standing history of the Black Sword. At first he did not think his father was serious, but now he guesses he is right. His father explains to him that in the case his request is too ridiculous, his evaluation of him will change. Teo shows his trust in him, believing he will not do something that foolish. The offer was so sudden that he requests his father for some time to think it over. His father agrees and also permits him to leave the estate, but warns him not to get into trouble like he did previously. Nox obediently accepts his father's words. His father reminds him to always keep in mind that he is of the Reinhofer family. The next day, Talia and her maid are about to leave the palace. Talia tells Nox to meet at Eldon Academy the next time they meet. He says nothing and shows no emotions, but she insists on seeing him again. The head butler, Rodwell, tells Nox that he ought to answer when a lady asks him a question. The young master unwillingly replies to her that it will be if she becomes a full-fledged knight before then. Talia becomes emotionally charged and agrees with him, but he taunts her by saying, as in, not getting all scared even after seeing a super huge spider. That remark makes her sad and angry, and she punches him in the belly. She tells him that she will return after becoming a full-fledged knight and that he must prepare his head for her. He wonders what she means by his head and doubts she intends to kill him. Emma thanks everyone for their hospitality, especially young Master Nox. The swordsman very rudely asks Emma what a maid of the style in her family has to thank him for. She thanks him again for saving her young Miss Talia. He explains to her that it is not as if he saved her intentionally and tells them to stop bothering him and leave already. Finally, Talia and Emma depart from the estate. Nox feels relieved that one person is gone now. He wonders why he feels like he is slowly getting used to this weird life. He cannot find the exact reason, but he is kind of enjoying it. The system informs him that the remaining life he has left, due to terminal illness, is 146 days. He decides that he has no time to rest now. A few days later, when the young master is getting ready in his room, Rona tells him that he needs to get a new maid and new servants. He gets surprised to hear that, and as he is thinking about why she said that, Rodwell enters the room and greets him with a good morning. He asks Rodwell the purpose of his visit. Rodwell informs Nox that Eldon Academy has sent a maid in training to assist him, and from today onwards, she will be serving him, so he has come to introduce her. She greets him and tells him that she is his exclusive maid from today onwards, and that her name is Lavilia. The young master quickly checks her details on the system. A few important things he finds out about her are that she has a perfect housework active skill and that she is monitoring him based on orders from Teo. This information about her makes him feel a little conscious. Suddenly, the system informs him that the remaining life he has left due to his terminal illness is only 140 days. He observes that when one's time is limited, it feels like it goes so darn fast. The only good thing for him right now is his positive stats. He reflects that despite having such a severe penalty, he is actually growing pretty fast. Soon he will also be admitted into Eldon Academy. Rona tells him that after 2 months, he will finally start attending Eldane Academy and wonders if he feels nervous. Nox questions whether she is that happy about the fact that he will be leaving this place for the academy. At this, Rona starts crying and tells him that she is already starting to miss him. He stops her from overreacting and remarks that he is not going to reduce her salary. After hearing that, she becomes happy. The young master thinks that he does not even have time to bully her within the next 2 months. If he does not increase his stats even a little, he definitely will not be able to survive inside the academy. He knows Eldane is the Empire's best academy where monstrously strong cadets from all over the country gather. And after surviving that place and entering the main story, he must play the role of the villain. Right now, everything is so tough for him. Rona tells him again that he needs to get a new maid and new servants. Lavilia assures him that she will do her very best to support him. The young master realizes that they will not let him leave this place comfortably. In truth, Teo von Reinhofer is one of the greatest villains and among the strongest beings in the world. When people wonder how he rose to his current position, many ask if it was solely from his swordsmanship. He is so skilled that few doubt this to be the case. However, the main reason Teo was able to take his place at the top of the Reinher family was because he remained suspicious of everything and everyone around him. Teo tells Lavilia that he has great expectations for her this time. He also mentions that he heard she was pushed back in the line of succession within the Lavilia family, and states that if she does well this time, the Reiner family will spare no efforts to support her in the succession. She assures him that she will assist young Master Nox with all her heart. Teo, however, tells her this is not what he wants. She then confirms to him that she will monitor Nox strictly and report every single thing to him. Teo reminds her to never forget who her master is. She comes out of his office and decides that from this point onwards, she must not waver any further. On the other side, the young master is lying on his bed thinking about Lavilia, a spy. He knows Teo probably wants to confirm whether the person within Nox is really Nox or not, since demon possession is something that happens quite frequently within the inner lunatic. Nox is a character whose body was stolen by the #1 demon, Bale, in the original storyline. He realizes it is all right as long as Teo does not find out who he really is. Still, he knows Lavilia is the problem. While she is not involved in the main storyline, it would be a waste to throw her away like this. Originally, she was supposed to become the next head of the Levia family, but her father and mother were killed by her uncle, and she lost her position as the next head. What happened next is obvious. In the end, she became a maid of the Reiner family and managed to escape from her family. She looks cheerful on the outside and is always smiling, but inside she is so jaded and rotten, a character on the verge of breaking. Her final decision was that before the first part of the main story started, she would commit suicide. Now he wonders what he should do to create a change in the storyline. He thinks that saving someone who ought to be dead might be the correct decision, despite knowing that doing so would mean placing a noose around his own neck. The next day, he informs both his maids that from today onwards, they will be hunting monsters within the forest in the territory, and both of them will accompany him and assist him. Lavilia stays confident and says nothing, but Rona is shocked to hear this and tells her master that she is going to take a leave of absence because she is sick. However, Lavilia agrees to obey her master. Rona warns her that she cannot just agree to everything so easily. The young master observes their reactions very closely, knowing it is normal for a maid to be scared of hunting monsters, because it is a ridiculous request after all. Lavilia's immediate answer makes him curious. He tells Rona that he knows she has used up all her leaves. Rona starts crying and asks if she is not allowed to take a sick leave today, questioning how he can do that. Nox asks if she forgets that he is good for nothing, and warns that if she does not follow what he says, he will reduce her salary. For starters, he will go easy on her, maybe about half her annual salary. Rona keeps crying and asks whether he wants her to bring along a bow or a sword. Lavilia asks him if she should inform Sir Rodwell that he will be leaving the estate before she starts preparing. He suddenly remembers that from now on his top priority will be increasing his lifespan, and since he is now free to go anywhere, he intends to act on that. Afterwards, all three of them mount their horses and ride into the forest. Mr. Tiao watches them leave from his office window. A few days later, in the missing child's forest that now looks like an ordinary forest after being cleared, Nox slays another gray wolf. The system notifies him that he has absorbed a very small amount of the wolf's life force. It is almost 2 hours of life that he gains. After killing countless wolves in the forest, he begins to wonder if he has exterminated all the wolves in this area. Since he obtained 2 hours of life from a single hunt, this could be considered quite a successful hunt. Countless dead wolves are lying scattered on the ground. Leovilia mentions that it has been 1 hour since he started hunting and questions if he is not tired offering him water. The young master realizes he forgot to activate Hour of the Genius, causing the hunt to take a long time. This means he has earned only 1 hour. He knows the calculation never balances out perfectly, but this is far too off. Besides, it is not as if he can go around killing monsters every single hour. His biggest concern is that there is a limited number of monsters. Since he has been hunting continuously for the last few days, he has already slain most of them. At this rate, he understands that his plan of living a great life is in danger of completely falling apart. He considers that the current lack of monsters in this vicinity is also a significant problem. Lavilia remarks that she cannot believe he thinks having no monsters is a problem, and if other people heard what he just said, they would think he had become strange. He informs his maids that it cannot be helped, and tells them to return to the mansion for today. Lavilia asks if she should prepare warm bathwater for him, and promises to set it at a comfortable temperature. The swordsman was expecting such consideration from a support genius. He orders her, saying he wants to bathe before dinner, so she must make sure the timing is correct. Rona reminds him not to forget about her, adding that she will clean his room. He simply tells her to do as she pleases. Before leaving the forest, Nox wants to ask Levia something. He asks who she serves. She is surprised to hear this. The young master thinks that no matter how beautiful and great a sword is, if he cannot use it, he will not hesitate to throw it away. She remains silent. The swordsman comments that her silence is her answer. She quickly responds that she has not said anything yet. Before she manages to say anything further, he tells her that he already knows what she wants to say, and assures her that she does not need to worry, as he does not intend to interrogate her any further. The young master also adds that he is actually thankful towards her, at least for not lying. He informs her that no matter who she serves, he will still think of her as one of his own. He also allows her to make use of him, if she ever needs to. He thinks that rather than having mutual trust, it is sufficient for them to simply make use of each other. After all, that is the kind of relationship he has with her. That night in Rona and Lavilia's bedroom, Rona asks if young master is just too much. She tells Levia that during training, he would say to them that if they did not run together with him, it would not be fun for him to train, and it happens every single time they train. Lavilia says nothing and lets out a small laugh. She thinks about the rumors she has heard countless times since her days at the family palace, rumors that young Master Nox has changed. She had believed those rumors were probably fabricated since it is rare for someone to change this much. However, they said that he defeated the twins in one move and obtained the right to attend the academy. He's also someone who should solidify his standing within the family, completely different from her, who had fallen all the way down despite being a legitimate successor. She wonders what he meant by what he said to her today. Shortly after that day, a groundless rumor begins to spread within the Reiner family. The rumor claims that Lavilia was expelled from her family and no longer deserves to be a maid of the Reiner family. She receives a letter calling her an incompetent family head who sold out her own family, stating that she will be held accountable for her sins and she has been stripped of all rights as a direct line descendant. Now she understands that she will not be able to stay within the Reiner family for long. It is to be expected. The Reiner family is one of the top dark families after all. It is clear she is only being used as a maid for a good-for-no son, and as a commoner who has lost her family, she no longer has the right to serve him. It is obvious she will soon be cut off and forced to serve someone new. She enters the kitchen and greets the other maids. Everyone looks at her with surprise. From their reactions, it seems everyone has heard the rumors, but she is already used to these looks of disdain. Suddenly, Rona calls her name and tells her that she had been looking for her everywhere. Lavilia wonders whether Rona does not know about the rumors, is simply messing with her, or truly thinks of her as a friend. Whatever the case is, she feels Rona is doing something foolish now. Soon she realizes that she, Rona, and young Master Nox are all doing foolish things, and the end is imminent. The young master sits inside his room thinking not just about Levia, but also about Teo, who probably received the letter as well. He knows that all the crimes framed upon her father were fabricated. However, he is also aware that he is unable to help her because there is no way to predict what butterfly effect would be caused just by him helping her survive. They go into the forest again, and he keeps killing the monsters there. Lavilia turns to Rona and asks if she doesn't think the young master seems a little harsher today. Rona responds that he used to be a little more merciful in the past, but today he is angry. Lavilia feels uneasy about this change. It seems like Nox is waiting for something, and he wonders if it should be about time for it to appear or if it is not going to come out today as well. He knows that in the missing child's forest, there is a monster that appears randomly when only about 20% of the monsters remain, and it is called the Hidden Boss Monster. Nox thinks about killing it because he believes it would help him increase his stats, but he remains doubtful, thinking it might not work. Suddenly, he notices some movement in the forest. Its speed is on a completely different level. He assumes that must be what a hidden boss is like, but then he gets shocked to see that it is an elite king wasp. The sight scares the young master, because he knows this is a troublesome one, but it is not at the level that he cannot kill it. Suddenly, Lavilia jumps between Nox and the wasp and gets stung by it. The swordsman knows that, even without her help, that was an attack he could have either dodged or blocked. So he questions internally why she chose to save him. He wonders how many people would be able to run towards a monster that appeared so suddenly. He decides to make use of this situation for the sake of saving her. He quickly activates Hour of the Genius. Lavilia remembers her mother telling her father about how their daughter is always falling down, and how there has never been a day when the wounds on her knees are completely healed. That is what her parents always said, that her wounds are never fully healed. However, that does not apply only to her knee wounds, but also to the wounds in her heart. She wonders if they were prophesying over her back then. She also remembers the time when Nox asked her whom she served, and she did not reply, and she thinks about the murder of her parents and the question in her mind about who she should serve. All the words Nox told her that day come back to her. Nox and Rona run towards her after he kills the monster. The system confirms the defeat of the monster and details the rewards he will receive. Lavilia is badly injured, and the young master tells her to hold on, saying it is all over and he will take her back now. In her mind, Lavilia knows that he is lying to her, and she wonders if that is what the expression of someone who is just trying to make use of her would look like. She also wonders why there is a slight tremble and anger in his voice. Back in the palace, Tao says that this is indeed troubling. After reading the letter, Rodwell informs him that based on their investigation, the contents of the letter are true. The Lavilia family has decided to completely cut off Miss Lavilia. Mr. Teo thinks about how the reason he brought her here in the first place was for the sake of taking over the Lavilia family. And since they have lost their previous head of the house and are in an unstable state, he thought this would be the perfect chance to take them over. For example, if the situation within the family is so unstable that the successor's position in the family would be shaky, then with the involvement of Reiner, they should be able to bring them into submission somehow. But what if she is expelled from her family? Because it is written in the letter that she has been stripped of any rights she had as a direct line descendant. He knows that before any plans can even take place, this changes everything. He tells Rodwell that this cannot be helped then, and asks him what he thinks they should do with her. Rodwell advises that, while it is regretful, if they place a maid who does not belong to any family beside young Master Knox, they will be looked down upon within Eldon Academy, and they ought to deal with this quietly on their end. Teo agrees with him, and confirms that he had similar thoughts. Suddenly a servant enters the office, and Rodwell asks him why he is barging in without permission. The servant apologizes and informs them that the young Master Knox carried back a maid who had been injured during his hunt, and the maid has been poisoned and is in a very critical state. He also tells them that Knox has used a very expensive antidote without permission, so he is here to report that to him. Rodwell asks if Knox used the Mandre purifying potion. The servant confirms the potion. Teo wonders if he already grew attached to the maid so quickly. He feels worried because no one knows what result could come out of personal feelings like that. In the hospital, Lavilia finally wakes up, and Rona gets emotional upon seeing her regain consciousness. After gaining her senses, Lavilia wonders what happened to her and if young Master Knox is safe, and also questions internally why she did what she did back then. Rona tells her that the young master used an antidote on her, the Mandre, which is supposed to be very effective. Rona also tells her that he completely ignored the doctor's refusal to use it and told him to use it on her unless he wanted to die. Rona guesses that the good foresight of him is still around. Lavilia wonders why he saved her life, and wasn't he going to make use of her? Rona tells her that she needs to rest more, but Lavilia says she wants to see young Master Knox right now. Rona explains that he went to look for the Chamberlain, and he asked her to update him when Lavilia woke up. Rona tells her that she will be back soon and leaves the room. Lavilia gets up and starts packing her bags because she thinks that she should not be here, and the truth is, she knows that she doesn't deserve to be anywhere. While packing her bag, she looks at her parents' picture and leaves a note for Knox. In that note, she writes to the young master that she heard he used a potion for her, and she thinks this pendant should be able to pay for the cost of that with some excess money. She places a gold pendant on top of the letter. As she walks away from her room, Knox stops her on the way and asks where she thinks she is going. Young Master Knox recalls the time when he brought the injured Lavia to the palace hospital and argued with the doctor, stating that someone was dying while all the doctor cared about was how precious that medicine was. The doctor requests permission from the head of the family. He questions the doctor, asking whether he holds a higher rank than him in this family. The doctor apologizes to him. The young master threatens to report this matter to his father personally and forces him to administer it immediately. Finally, the doctor complies. Rona inquires if her friend will be all right now. He informs her that since the poison has been neutralized, she will be fine. Before leaving the room, Knox instructs Rona to report to him personally once Lavilia wakes up. From there, he proceeds straight to his father's office. Teo is surprised to see him there and remarks that it's rare for him to come looking for his father, wondering if this visit is because of that maid. Knox's system notifies him that Master of Acting has been activated. The young master reminds his father that he once said he would grant him a wish. He demands his father to give Lavilia to him. she who has been exiled from her family. The swordsman considers it a beautiful effect that will influence the main story. She was Teao's spy, but he understands that such problems no longer matter, because today when he saw her trying to save him, he realized something. The answer she hadn't spoken before, she had shown with her actions. His father tells him that he understands, and if this is what he wants, he will make it happen. As Nox is about to leave, he tells his father that this unworthy son of his has just one more thing to say. Teo permits him to speak. However, as Nox begins, he receives a warning from his system that the efficacy of Master of Acting is dropping due to his agitated state, preventing him from finishing what he was about to say. Teo stops him. At present, Nox stands in front of Lavilia, demanding answers to his questions. She informs him that she is about to leave. She explains that she doesn't think there is any place for her here anymore and thanks him for everything he has done for her. Nox questions her again, asking where she plans to go instead of assisting him as his maid should. She responds that he already knows the answer. She tells him that she was ordered by his father to surveil him, and that included deceiving him as well. She wonders why he is trying to hold her back when she has already deceived him. She explains that she wouldn't have anything to say even if he chased her out right now and asks why he is doing this. The young master gazes at her calmly and reflects on whether this is what she is like behind her acting. This side of her feels far more like a living person, someone who would choose not to give up and would struggle even when times are dark and harsh. He tells her that people deceive each other all the time to begin with. She bursts into tears and says that she has committed a grave offense against him. He replies that's precisely why. After committing a grave offense against him, she wants to leave without repaying him for it. He asks her who said she could leave. She looks confused and wants to know what he really means. He explains to her that she is staying here. He doesn't care what his father thinks because he doesn't need that Lavilia family name of hers. What he needs are her talents, and so he wants her to assist him by his side until she repays the offense of deceiving him as his maid. She agrees to stay and tells him that she will remain by his side until the end and assist him. She recalls that he asked her this previously, asking whom she serves. He confirms that he did. She then asks if he knows whom she serves, and he replies that he actually does. The next morning, while Rona is mopping the floor, she tells the other maids that the young master threatened the doctor, saying he would kill him, and the doctor became terrified. Suddenly, Nox appears behind her and orders her to refrain from insulting him in front of him. She is startled to see him there and wonders if he was listening to everything she said. He mocks her, stating that she has given up on trying to wriggle out by claiming she didn't insult him. Rona suddenly turns to Lavilia and asks if she is all right, telling her not to overwork herself and that she will handle the laundry instead. The swordsman wonders why she is always causing trouble. He asks Lavilia if she knows that she will be going to Eldane Academy with him in 2 months. She tells him that she has already made quite a few preparations for that. He wants to know what kind of preparation she has made. She explains that she has prepared basic tools he will need: books, medicine, emergency items, clothes, and a cadet uniform for external trips. He notices that she no longer forces herself to smile in front of him. The reason is that last time, she decided she was tired of acting and admitted to herself that she was no good at it anyway. The young master knows that he feels more comfortable with her being like this because they don't have to give unnecessary compliments to each other or engage in meaningless small talk. But in a situation where they are driven into a corner, even when their backs are facing each other, they won't betray one another. And for him, that is good enough for his relationship with her. Livia enters his study and asks if he is truly all right. She also mentions that some negative rumors about him have been spreading recently. The young master grows curious about these rumors. He wonders if it isn't just one of the already existing ones, because it's quite impressive that there could be worse rumors than those that are already circulating. She tells him that people are saying the reason he continues to hire her as his maid is because he likes her. He smiles, thinking he would feel such a sense of shame for playing the role of Nox. He apologizes to her, saying he is sorry that she got implicated because of him. She explains that isn't why she told him about it. Actually, she was just thinking he might feel uncomfortable because of such rumors. The young master reassures her there is no need to worry and asks if she must have heard about his previous rumors that he is the good-for-no idiotic incompetent youngest son of this family. She quietly says it's not that bad. He threatens to fire her if she lies to him. She quickly admits that she did hear those rumors, and on top of those, there were also rumors that he was perverted. She then asks if it is true. Knox covers his face with his hands, feeling ashamed. He thinks his image is actually better now, because previously he was just a reckless good-for-nothing despite being so weak, while nowadays he is merely a brat who acts up even though he is quite capable. Still, he knows he needs to strike a balance. He understands that Knox is a villain in the end, and he must remain a villain to let the protagonist shine because he is not the protagonist of Inner Lunatic. He tells her to forget it and stop talking about the rumors, then mentions that he has a task for her. He informs her that, as she already knows, in order to survive at Elden Academy, she won't be the only one who needs to prepare. He will need to prepare as well. She wonders what kind of preparations he is referring to. The young master knows Lavilia's single-minded trait refers to how she absolutely trusts a certain person. He also thinks it won't be an issue even if he shares a little bit of his plans with her. In fact, he thinks he needs her to know more about him so that it will be easier for him to get her to do things. So, he tells her that he is intending to study magic before joining the academy and wants her help with that. She looks surprised and asks if he is thinking of doing that, despite knowing it's illegal in this empire. He responds positively. She tells him that he is acting so brazen. He smiles and says that he is a good-for-nothing after all, and a lustful one at that. She says that he sure holds grudges, and she is certain there is a reason behind his decision. She tells him that she will look for basic books that could be of help to him. The swordsman feels happy and thinks she is competent as expected. Suddenly they hear Rodwell ordering the servants to be quick and get prepared. He wonders what is going on at the palace entrance. The head butler warns the servants that they will be in trouble if they mess up the preparations. He announces to them that young Master GRA has returned. That news surprises Knox. He thinks GRA has come back after graduating from Elden Academy. He almost forgot about such an important event. They look out the window and notice a large number of horse carts carrying Grain's luggage. The chance to extend his life is finally here. He tells his maid that it seems he will need to go on a faraway mission for the time being. She asks him what he is up to now. At night in the palace dinner hall, Teao appreciates GRA for doing a good job graduating from Elden. GRA thanks his father for his appreciation. Actually, he is Teo's second son and one of Knox's older brothers. The young master quickly checks his details on the system. He finds out that Graham is 16 years old. His main element is dark achievements, and his skill is precise detection. Gran is a lustful man who brightens upon seeing materialistic women. He also looks at Grain's traits in detail. Knox knows he is an opportunist. He remembers what the professor at his academy said. The only reason Grain's true colors had not been exposed was because Knox was a worse good-for-nothing. GRA is someone very good at getting along with others in the world of politics. He used his talents in political maneuvering to easily graduate from the academy. It is true that Elden is very famous, but also very hard to graduate from, and in its admission exams, fewer than 1,000 people would pass, and only half among those who were admitted would graduate. Their father asked Graham if the date for his departure to Chhatters is decided. Grain confirms that he will be departing to the south for Chhatters in 3 days' time. Teo informs him that if he is going there at this time of year, it should be a monster hunting mission. Actually, Chhatters is a little outside the Reinhardt territory, a neutral territory of the south. It is also on the borders with Tajalin in the east, which uses an undeveloped desert as its borders. Not only is it barren, but it is also swarming with monsters, making it the worst kind of wasteland. The mission that Grain received from the Imperial family is to stop the monster wave in Chhatters. Because the rule of the Archime Empire is that one must complete the first mission given to them by the Empire in order to become a knight recognized by the Imperial family. Gray tells his father that when winter comes, Chhatters is always filled with monsters, and it seems the Imperial family wants to take some initial measures against them. Teo tells him that while the land is barren, other areas will also suffer if that place falls. He also advises him to never bring shame to the Reinhardt name. Grain replies affirmatively. The young master knows that this Chhatters mission is not just a simple monster hunting one, and it doesn't just end as a sub-story. It is involved in several complicated storylines, and so there is a lot to gain from it. Knox asks his brother Grind if he is going to Chhatters, and he replies positively. The young master knows it is natural for him to gain those things he wants. Knox requests his brother to bring him along because he has decided that he will have to participate in the Chhatters subjugation himself. GRA wonders what he is talking about and asks if he knows what kind of place Chhatters is. Knox tells him that he has heard it's a neutral area where monsters attack suddenly on an intermittent basis, and also a place where bandits are secretly increasing their forces. Gray tells him that he has been hearing a lot about him recently. Knox knows about the skill GRA has precise detection. Grain asks if it is true that he cleared the missing child's forest together with the second daughter of the Stillriners. The young master confirms that it's true. He knows that Gra's skill allows him to figure out why someone is restless, and if his target stats are lower than his, then he can find out the reason for it quickly. Simply put, that is the skill that made Grain an expert at living in the world and playing politics. Grain tells him that in that case, it must also be true that he defeated the twins and took in a commoner maid. The swordsman quickly activates his steel mentality and affirms that it's all true. Grain says he gets it. Knox has accomplished a lot of great feats recently, but he can't let someone who has not even been admitted to Elden Academy come along with him on the mission. He also tells him that he would prefer not to be the one to collect his corpse. Things grow heated between both brothers, and they stand up from their chairs. Their father quickly interrupts and tells Grain that he thinks he can be the one to guarantee that won't happen, and orders GRA to bring his brother on the mission with him. Grain protests, but Teo tells him it is an order. Teo then informs them that their family will provide the necessary supplies for the mission, and orders both of them to make the necessary preparations for departure in the next 3 days. Knox wonders what just happened. Thinking about how his father gave permission so easily, he grows curious, wondering if Teo is up to something. His brother asks if he has really lost his mind. The young master replies that no matter how crazy he is, he couldn't be any crazier than he used to be. Gray gets angry at him for joking and grabs his collar. The swordsman warns his brother to watch himself. Grain tells him it would be a real pity if he got injured after getting the rare chance to go to Chhatters. Suddenly, Lavilia enters. Lavilia spills tea on Knox's jacket and immediately apologizes to him. She offers to wash it for him right away and requests that he heads to his room first without her. Gray finds the situation slightly awkward. The young master apologizes to his brother for his maid's mistake and takes his leave from there. While leaving, he tells his brother that he will see him in 3 days on the departure day for the caterer's subjugation. On their way back, he thanks Lavilia, saying that thanks to her, he was able to get out of something troublesome. She remarks that he truly has a talent for getting into trouble. She asks him if he will be all right since Chhatters is dangerous. He informs her that he will be fine, and she does not need to worry about it. Now she wants to know where he just said he would go. He wonders if she has forgotten that he is her young master. He simply says that everything has already been decided. He thinks to himself whether the news of a good-for-nothing joining the Chhatters' subjugation is really that shocking. She tells him that this time she agrees with Rona as well, and she believes the Chhatters region is far too dangerous because the number of monsters and bandits there ranges in the hundreds. The young master thinks that is precisely why he is going there in the first place, as it is his chance to extend his life. He tells her that it is okay, and he knows what he is doing. He informs them that he will be going on the subjugation mission without both of them, and so he wants the two to remain here. Lavilia apologizes to him, saying that she cannot let him do that. As his exclusive maid, she has a duty to assist him no matter where he is, so she will be going with him as well. He warns her that she could get hurt. She agrees with that, but argues that the same applies to him as well. She tells him that she heard from Rona that he is very weak and prone to illness. She asks if he will be able to make such a long-distance journey without her. She continues, mentioning that he frequently forgets his belongings and also needs his clothes washed. She questions if he can manage all that by himself. The young master thinks that what she says does make sense. These are the trivial details he never worried about when it was just a game. But this world is reality now. He also knows that if he dies, her position in the Reinhardt family would be in danger as well. He concludes that Lavilia has no choice but to follow him. Finally, he agrees and tells her that she must listen to his orders, and she will also need to learn how to ride Carl. She agrees and tells Rona that she has already gotten much closer to Carl. This surprises Rona, who wants to know how she managed that. Lavilia explains that she used half of her salary to buy top-grade sugar cubes for horses, and he opened up to her pretty quickly. Rona recalls how she tried to befriend Carl, but the horse never listened to her. The young master tells Rona that she will stay in the palace. While leaving his room, he tells Levia that since she will be coming along, he will need her to make thorough preparations to assist him. He notices that Rona seems so concerned just now and wonders if she will be all right. Suddenly, Rodwell enters his room and informs the young master that the patriarch has an item he would like to pass to him. He suddenly remembers Teo telling them that their family will be providing the necessary supplies for the mission. He wonders if this is one of those supplies, and he does not know why. But Teo took his side during dinner just now. He is sure that Teo is up to something. The young master quickly reaches his father's office and tells him that he heard he has something for him. Teo tells his son that whether he can obtain this item or not will depend on him. Teo shows him a sword and tells him that this is the sword of Reiner's first patriarch. This surprise is completely unexpected for him, because this item never appeared in Inner Lunatic before. Even as a veteran player who cleared the game 27 times, he does not know about this sword. Nox wonders why his father would give that to him. He is unable to understand the current situation, and now he wants to put his hands on it. His father says that it probably looks worn out to him. But this sword accompanied the first patriarch for his entire life and remained with him always. He requests his father to tell him the test that he must go through for this. Teo tells him to try holding up the sword. He moves forward and takes it in his hands. Suddenly, he feels his mana being absorbed and notices the blade's color changing. Teo tells his son that, as expected, he has already started to sense mana, saying it is just as he had thought, and informs Nox that the sword absorbs the mana of its master and releases it several-fold. This surprises Nox, and he says to his father that he guesses this will not be an easy sword to use. Suddenly, the sword begins absorbing his mana at a rapid rate. The system notifies him that due to the abrupt change in condition, the Master of Acting trait is unstable. He quickly realizes that if his mana is being absorbed this quickly, it will get dangerous for him. His father warns him that if he wants to receive that sword, he just needs to last 10 minutes while holding it. 10 minutes feels like a long time for him to waste his mana continuously. Tao tells him that the name of that sword is Stormbringer. It becomes harder and harder for him to hold the sword in his hands. He quickly checks its complete details in the system. The system also notifies him that after it has absorbed a large amount of the player's mana, it will discharge it and unlock its power. He understands that this kind of information isn't important right now. The system informs him that his mana has been completely exhausted, and it is now changing the source of energy. It is forcefully converting the player's life force into mana that terrifies him completely. The system states that his life is being depleted quickly. The young master reaches a point where he no longer cares about his father anymore. Knowing that he has to give up now, he attempts to throw the sword away, but notices that he cannot let go of it anymore. He curses the sword while his father continues to watch him silently. In truth, Stormbringer is a magic sword that grants one tremendous power because it harms the person who holds it. The first patriarch used this sword to build up the family. However, while Reiner rose to become a reputable dark family, his descendants were unable to properly wield this sword. It is also true that 9 out of 10 people would collapse immediately from exhaustion as soon as they held it. And to be able to last more than 10 minutes is already considered a long time. Even he can only hold it for barely an hour. But Tiao orders his youngest son, who has not fully learned how to control mana, to hold this sword, including the recent incident of him saving the maid and all sorts of huge incidents that happened within the family. Nox was always involved, and none of this is a coincidence. Tio notices that he is growing more than expected, or perhaps Nox is as talented as a sword emperor. That is why he decides to test Nox. If he is able to last 10 minutes while holding the sword, it means Nox will be able to become the greatest patriarch in their family's history, and he will surpass Tao, eventually succeeding in killing his father. Teo remarks that as he thought, Nox was hiding his strength. The young master wonders what he is talking about. Teo informs him that this sword is now his. After saying that, Teo leaves his office, but Nox wants his father to give back his life force before leaving. 3 days later, on the departure day for the caterer subjugation, Lavilia sits behind the young master on his horse. She tells him that there were a lot of things to bring along, and she is glad that the dimensional pouch can hold all of them. She glances at him and wonders why. Although he had been waiting to go for this subjugation, he looks like he is in a bad mood. While he wonders if Teo did give another item to bring along other than Stormbringer, he does not feel thankful at all after seeing his life force being taken away. He glances at Grain and thinks that he really brought quite a lot of things among the monsters that he has learned about at the academy. It seems a little too much since Graham made it a condition for him to carry these things, in return for letting him tag along. But it is all right, since he will be making use of him. Suddenly, he notices two servants starting to argue about the direction they have to choose. One of them is certain about one way, and the other is convinced about another route. The young master wonders if they have already lost their way. Grain becomes angry and questions his servant, asking, "Didn't he say that he would be able to get them there for sure?" Ron apologizes and explains that it is because he has never taken this route before. In truth, Ron is the Night Order captain hired by Grain. Nox becomes furious with Ron and the other servants, calling them idiots. Levelia thinks he is angry at her, but he clarifies that he is not speaking to her. His words are meant for those incompetent buffoons. He moves forward and remarks to his brother that it seems they have gotten themselves into a situation, but Graham very rudely rejects his comment, saying that it is none of his concern. Nox tells him that they have lost their way, but his brother insists it is none of his business. The swordsman offers that he can get them there. His brother thinks to himself that despite having only lived in the mansion all his life, he claims to be able to get them there. The young master requests his brother to hire him as the Pathfinder, because he is quite talented and even their family vassals complimented him for it. GRA wonders if the vassals really said that. He doubts Nox, thinking he is blatantly lying now, but he also considers that arriving late could become a problem. And what if Nox fails to get them there? He thinks he might be able to bring down that confidence of his. In that case, it might not be such a bad idea, even if it means taking a little detour. So, he tells him that since he is so confident, he will let him take the lead for now. He confidently leads them in the right direction. At night, they set up their camp in the forest. Grain becomes curious and asks how he managed to find the right path so quickly. He questions his guides, stating that this is the south, which has not yet been explored, and even trained guides have a hard time finding their way around here. He yells at them, demanding answers. He doubts his captains for supporting Nox and asks if they expect him to believe that Nox managed to find the way so quickly on his own. The young master listens to their conversation while hiding behind a tree. Nox already knows the way, as it is an easy task for a veteran player. And since the Chhatters area is a strategic hub, he has visited it more than a few hundred times. Finally, Lavilia asks her master how he found the way so quickly. He asks her if she saw what was on the ground. When she looks down, she notices some footprints and feathers of an owlbear. He explains that it is a monster with a bear's body and an owl's head that lives in the south, and their habitat is on the southern Chhatters border. He further elaborates that if they just follow the direction of those tracks, they will be able to easily find their way to Chhatters. She quickly asks if it is all right for them to set up an overnight camp in the habitat of the owl bears. He explains that since they are afraid of fire, they won't enter a camp where there are so many people. In the camp, the servants talk about young master and how he has changed a lot. Ron asks the other servants if he isn't much better than the second young master who studied at the academy. Unfortunately, Graham appears and tells him to shut up. He asks him if he said that Hartz and Allen lost to Nox. The servant confirms that it is true. Grain tells his servants that he needs to see just how strong Nox really is. Grain's butler tells him that he happens to have the perfect item for that. The butler hands him a small pouch. Gray laughs and thinks that it looks like it will be a long night for Nox. On the other side, Lavilia and Nox are busy setting up their tents. Now it is late at night and everyone goes to sleep. Even the guard on duty falls asleep. Suddenly, a monster approaches their tents. The swordsman, always vigilant, gets up in his tent and grips his sword. He wonders if it has already begun. Lavilia also wakes up. He orders his maid to wait inside the tent and steps outside alone. Braven steps out of his tent and sees 4 enormous ogre monsters standing before him. Within a second, he realizes the likely cause. The soil in this area has been mixed with a female ogre's pheromones. He instantly understands that GRA has taken advantage of the fact that it's currently the mating season for ogres and has used this to lure the male ones here. Grain's intention must have been to use them as a threat to intimidate him. But the young swordsman simply smiles at the creatures and refers to them as his life force. Without wasting a moment, he activates his Stormbringer, and the system promptly confirms that the weapon is responding to both his mana and will. All 4 monsters charge at him, and with a calm yet confident smile, he launches himself toward them. His attack is executed with such speed and precision that within just a few seconds he manages to kill 2 of the ogres. As he examines his sword, he comments that it's quite a good weapon and admits he was concerned it might recklessly consume his mana, the same way it did when he faced Teo. After taking down another one, he notices that the sword seems to be moving smoothly in whatever direction he intends, almost as if it's attuned to his intent. Now, with only one left, he feels a sense of pity for the final monster. The last ogre, clearly terrified, stares at him for a moment before throwing away its weapon. Then, turning to flee, it begins to run. Nox quickly notices that the creature is attempting to escape, but he knows he cannot allow that to happen. He mounts his horse, Carl, and together they ride after the fleeing beast. Very soon they catch up, and he kills the last ogre. The system then informs him that he has earned 1 day and 9 hours of additional time after defeating the group of monsters. From inside the tent, his maid peeks out. Concerned for her master's safety, she runs toward him, and the young master questions whether he didn't tell her to wait inside the tent. She hesitates, but then expresses her confusion, asking how it's possible for ogres to appear right at the entrance of the forest. She asks if they should call the night watch and wake the others just in case something more happens. Nox calmly tells her that the ogres were deliberately lured to this location. She appears slightly confused, clearly unsure of who could have done such a thing. He explains that Gray manipulated the ogre's behavioral instincts, and that's the reason why he intentionally set up his own tent farther away from the rest of the group. She wonders aloud if this means young Master Grain is trying to keep him under control. Nox then tells his horse Carl that he can go and rest now. Quietly, he reflects that Grain probably assumes he doesn't understand how to position himself as a candidate for succession within the family. That's why he decided it would be better to test Nox's capabilities in advance. But Nox knows that when compared to the eldest son, GRA isn't as strong. He had no choice but to come up with such a cowardly tactic to gather information about him. However, Nox intends to make it clear that such a strategy won't work against him. He sits down near the corpses of the fallen ogres. Lavilia, curious, asks him what he plans to do now. He asks if she knows how one could lure even more ogres to this place. Then, taking a small bottle, he collects some of the ogre's blood and tells her that the idea is to make use of the monster's own blood. According to him, these beasts are similar to humans. They seek vengeance for their fallen kin. Meanwhile, inside Grain's tent, he notices a glowing crystal. He stares at it with a puzzled expression, recognizing it as a mana detection crystal, and wonders why it's reacting right now. It's a mana tool designed to detect the presence of monsters in the area. He questions whether it might be malfunctioning. It's a brand new device his father recently gave him. Considering they are still positioned at the forest entrance, it seems impossible that a monster powerful enough to trigger the crystal could be nearby. Suddenly, his butler rushes into the tent and urges him to evacuate immediately. Grain, alarmed, demands to know what's happening. The butler informs him that ogres have launched an attack on their tents and that they've arrived in large numbers. Shocked, Graham becomes frightened and mutters that this isn't the area where ogres are supposed to be appearing. When daylight comes, disaster has unfolded across the camp. People are shouting orders, some calling to bring the injured over, others rushing to deal with urgent tasks. In a fury, Gray yells at his butler and calls him an idiot. He accuses him of planting the tainted soil on top of his tent. The butler, clearly panicked, insists that things aren't what they seem and something strange is going on. He's certain that he had planted it on top of young Master Nox's tent instead. Later that morning, both Nox and Lavilia awaken from their deep sleep. The young master comments that the morning feels refreshing. Lavilia, now hungry, says they should eat breakfast. He invites her to join him and take a seat. However, she declines, saying that she is a maid and cannot eat alongside her master. He explains to her that given their current mission, it would be troublesome if she had to prepare her meal separately. Besides, if monsters were to appear again, it would be dangerous. Tens of ogres could show up here, just like they did at his brother's camp. She begins to ponder something, and when the young master asks what's on her mind, she responds that she was just thinking that the master she's supposed to serve is a little shameless. He laughs and tells her to get used to it. Elsewhere, Gray orders his men to tear down the tents and dispose of the ones stained with blood. He mutters that this is probably the reason they keep getting chased by ogres. Lavilia asks her master what he intends to do next and wonders if they should help GRA and his group. Nox refuses to offer any help to his brother and questions why he should. She comes to the realization that they will continue to be attacked by ogres, and that even if they move from this location, the monsters will likely keep pursuing them. Nox doesn't respond to her remark because that's exactly what he wants. He also knows that if he told her, she'd probably start nagging him. And right now, he needs more ogres to appear in order to extend his lifespan. After they finish their meal, he tells her it's time to pack up and get ready to depart. As they begin to move out, he spots an ogre not far away and kills it. On the second day, Nox and Levia ride on Carl, and by now, Carl has successfully memorized and adapted to the terrain of the entire area. Nox reflects that Chhatters is still quite far away, which had caused him a bit of concern earlier, but now realizing their current position, he feels reassured. His brother rides up beside them and questions what Nox intends to do about the ogres that are still on their trail. He also asks whether Nox believes he can manage to shake them off. Nox answers with calm confidence, saying that while they could attempt a large-scale subjugation operation right here, doing so would definitely attract the attention of other monsters lurking in the area. Therefore, instead of risking that, they'll focus all their efforts on getting out of the forest as quickly as possible. He assures his brother that as long as they escape the forest in time, there won't be any problems. Grain, however, silently questions whether things will truly be that easy. He also notices how every soldier is now turning to Nox for advice and protection. He finds himself wondering how, without anyone realizing it, command of the troops has suddenly shifted into Nox's hands. Meanwhile, the captain of Gra's unit asks with a puzzled expression, since when Nox had studied so much about ogres. A young soldier then turns toward the young master and curiously asks why he keeps tapping the ground with his stick. Nox replies that he's doing it because monsters might appear at any moment. Hearing this, all the soldiers grow uneasy and tense, but the young master simply smiles at their reaction. Just then, a massive worm monster bursts out from beneath the ground. The sudden appearance causes everyone to panic and cry out in fear, but the young swordsman appears delighted to see it. The creature before them is a worm, a monster that resembles a fusion of a snake and an earthworm. Within Inner Lunatic, it's known as a malformed dragon, a beast that never managed to fully evolve. Nox knows that the worm cannot cast any magic, but despite that, it remains well known for its overwhelming strength. Even if 10 or more ogres charged at them together, this worm would still be a tougher opponent to defeat. But Nox had been waiting for it. In fact, he had deliberately lured it out. He knows that if the soldiers realized he had been tapping the ground specifically to provoke the worm into appearing, they'd be stunned. The thought makes him chuckle. Still, he's confident. They can't stop him. He orders everyone to prepare for battle and take cover in the bushes. The soldiers, still in panic and confusion, wonder aloud if they're seriously going to fight the worm. But Nox doesn't plan to do that directly. He intends to let their enemies take care of each other. His maid anxiously asks whether he's referring to the ogres. Nox nods and tells her there won't be any problems as long as they get out of the forest quickly because from the beginning, he never had any intention of shaking the ogres off. At that moment, Lavilia warns him that a large number of ogres have already caught up. Nox gently calms her down, assuring her there's no need for concern. He has a plan. He then turns to her and asks if she knows which monster the worm both loves the most and hates the most at the same time. Lavilia, startled and unsure, can't answer. She hides behind him nervously. Nox answers the question himself. It's the ogres. He explains that worms treat ogres as one of their main food sources, but the two species are constantly locked in revenge-driven conflict. They are, in essence, natural enemies. That's why experienced adventurers know how to exploit this hatred. And exactly as he predicted, the moment the worm spots the ogres, it immediately begins devouring them. The ogres in turn retaliate and begin attacking the worm. It's a perfect outcome for the humans. Both threats are now locked in combat with each other. Everyone hiding in the bushes watches in stunned silence as the two monsters clash. Grain, overwhelmed with envy, wonders to himself how Nox knew such specific information. Lavilia then asks her master if all they need to do now is wait. At the same time, Nox casually picks up a few stones and throws them at the ogres. His frightened maid urgently asks what he's doing and questions whether provoking the ogres might cause them to attack the humans instead. As the battle continues and the worm slaughters more ogres, the system updates Nox, informing him that his strength stat is steadily increasing. Eventually, the system notifies him that his life has been extended by 8 hours as a reward for defeating the ogres. He quietly apologizes to his maid, explaining that in order to earn experience points, he needs to damage the enemies at least once. The system continues to inform him of further increases in both his strength and lifespan. Even his older brother now seems impressed by the strategy, thinking to himself that while it was brilliant to use the ogres this way, they still lost in the end, and now they have the worm to deal with. He wonders what they're supposed to do next, considering how difficult the worm is to kill. Gray then gives an order to his men, telling them to prepare for an attack, but no one moves. The soldiers remain frozen in fear. It's at that point the young master steps forward and suggests that they should either fire arrows or throw spears into the worm's mouth, its most vulnerable spot. Suddenly the soldiers regain their resolve. The captain rises, rallies his men, and commands them to follow young Master Nox. The troops surge forward and begin attacking the worm with their spears and arrows. Then, without any hesitation, Nox rushes toward the beast and strikes it with his sword. With one powerful swing, he slays the monster. The system immediately alerts him that his life has now been extended by 10 full days as a result of defeating the worm. His total remaining lifespan increases to 122 days. He hadn't expected to gain such a large extension. 10 days just from that kill. The worm was a mid-sized monster, and they wouldn't have stood a chance without the ogre softening it up beforehand. The system also shows him an increase in his traits and stamina. He's pleased to see that these gains also affect the curse of the weak and the hidden peace, the blessing of growth that he had previously used and which has now disappeared. At last, he reaches stamina level 5. He turns to the soldiers and encourages them to keep fighting with bravery. In response, they begin chanting his name in unison. He humbly tells them it was nothing and advises everyone to reorganize and prepare for what's next. Suddenly, the ground breaks open again and another monster emerges. Nox quickly commands the soldiers to get into formation. All eyes turn to the young master for guidance. But before he can act, a young man unexpectedly leaps at the new worm and kills it with a single strike of his sword. Even Nox is stunned by what he just witnessed. It's the sword genius. Only the young master knows that he is the strongest character in Inner Lunatic. He is one of the 3 sword emperors alongside Teao and the student of Celsus. This man is Paracelsus. He looks at them and remarks that he just saved their lives, then wonders aloud whether he won't even get a single word of thanks. Nox knows that Paracelsus also despises nobles down to his core. The butler scowls and calls him an impudent bastard, asking sharply if he even knows who he's speaking to. The stranger lowers his head slightly and apologizes, introducing himself as Paracelsus. He tells them they can simply regard him as a mercenary. Nox understands. It's easy to grasp Paracelsus' hatred for nobles when one considers the kind of treatment that he must have endured in his youth. But what concerns him more right now is the fact that their first encounter with Paracelsus was supposed to take place at Eldon Academy. He's played this game countless times, and not once has Paracelsus appeared before the academy begins. The captain, still skeptical, insists on checking his identity, and Paracelsus agrees to show it. After that, the group continues their journey with the mercenary now among them. During the travel, Gray turns to the mercenary and asks if he is also headed toward Chhatters. Paracelsus answers affirmatively, saying that it's his first stop. He adds that he heard this region is an excellent place to hunt monsters around this time of year. Knox keeps thinking about the monster hunt. He already knows that Paracelsus is pursuing this journey as part of his training. He had traveled extensively throughout the Empire before the Academy term started. Knox wonders if he deliberately chose random locations to train in. GRA, looking him over, comments that he seems quite young and questions whether he travels alone. He also points out that the man appears to have considerable confidence in his skills. He then offers Paracelsus a handsome reward and extends an invitation for him to serve under his command in subjugating the monsters. Paracelsus responds that, as the son of one of the Sword Emperors, Tao, he is indeed curious about the two brothers. The butler becomes angry and rebukes him for speaking so rudely to his master. Gray, keeping his composure, tells the butler to calm down and instructs him to give Paracelsus some time to think it over. Gras has already seen what Paracelsus is capable of. He watched him take down a worm in a single strike. That display convinced him to recruit this warrior and use his presence to draw the soldiers' attention away from Knox. Eventually, they reach their destination, and Knox informs his brother that this is Chhatters. He takes a look around and immediately senses something is wrong. It feels even more deserted than it ever did in the game. As they enter the town, they're met with a dismal sight. The area is a mess. People are starving and desperate. Suddenly, a child approaches and begs for food. Everyone is shocked by the dire condition of the people. A man soon appears to greet them. He introduces himself as Taigen, the security chief of this village. He recognizes GRA, who graduated from Dean Academy, and his younger brother, Knox. He tells them that he was informed ahead of time about their subjugation mission and had been expecting their arrival. The mercenary reflects on the encounter for one of the Sword Emperor's sons, and a noble house like the Reinhardt to personally take on a mission in Chhatters that had stirred his expectations. But although GRA did handle the worm with respectable swordsmanship, they're still just pampered young lords from a noble lineage. He finds it disappointing. He also observes that this town is clearly falling apart. The Night Order is corrupt, misappropriating funds just to fill their bellies while the citizens are powerless to withstand the approaching monster wave. The fact that they would be satisfied just to have food is heartbreaking. Taigen informs them that since it's already quite late, he'll brief them on the mission details tomorrow. He gestures toward the nearby inn, apologizing for its poor state, but hoping they'll find some rest after their long journey. The soldiers begin unloading supplies and gear from their horses. Paracelsus walks up to Gray and mentions the offer Grain made to him earlier. With calm politeness, he turns it down. Gran, slightly irritated, questions what he intends to do. Then he asks if Paracelsus is seriously planning to fight the monster wave alone. The mercenary replies that first and foremost, he plans to proceed as originally intended and wishes Grain a safe subjugation. Grain scoffs and calls him an obnoxious commoner. Paracelsus simply responds that in this world, those with true skill will always find their place, and that's just how things work. He adds that competent individuals are always followed by rumors. Knox watches the mercenary and quietly thinks that they may end up meeting again much sooner than expected. Later that night, Knox tells Livia to rest up, as they'll be heading out again the next day. He gazes out his window and notices a family sitting in the street around a small fire. Moved by the sight, he steps outside and approaches one of the children, gently asking if she needs food. He begins distributing bread to the hungry children. Overwhelmed, the kids start crying. He thinks to himself that he wants to build a future where no child ever has to beg for food again. But for that dream to begin, they first need to survive here in Chhatters. As he hands out food to the poor children on the streets, Lavilia secretly watches from behind a nearby wall. She has always known in her heart, he truly is a good man. Tien explains to both brothers that, as they already know, the Southern Chasers region is usually swarmed with monsters during the winter. That's why they have always requested funds and reinforcements from the imperial family. Grain glances at the wooden walls and questions whether this is all they have to protect the village. Tien admits that the structure has been around for a very long time and is in need of repairs. From Knox's point of view, the defenses are pitiful. Once the monster wave begins, he estimates the village won't last even an hour before being wiped out. Since this is just a subchapter for him, it's entirely up to him whether or not he wants to save the village, and most of the time, he does choose to help the Chasers region. The reason is obvious. The land holds high value. In the future, Chasers will become a tremendously expensive piece of territory. Taigen remarks that something feels different about the monsters this year. The number of rampant beasts has increased significantly compared to previous winters. Through their conversation, Nox realizes something these people don't understand yet. The rise in rampant monsters might actually benefit them in the future. Tien then adds that the worst part is that some villagers have even seen a griffin. Grain reacts immediately, stating that a griffin definitely makes the situation far more severe. He questions Tien about where the sighting took place. Tien replies that it was in the wilderness. The young swordsman knows that one of the most critical elements of the Chhatters' subjugation will be whether they can drive away the griffin. Griffins are in fact the kings of the wilderness. They were designed to be halted, never truly defeated. But Nox fully intends to defeat one. Tien then leads them outside the village and shows them the vast, endless horizon of the wilderness. He explains that the area stretches all the way to Tahaland in the east, which is a neutral zone, and it's widely known as barren land. The young master recognizes the landscape, but notices that something feels off. He informs the others that griffins don't typically dwell near Chad's village. They usually stay closer to Tahalan. He asks them if they understand why the creatures are here now. Everyone looks at him in silence, and from their facial expressions he picks up on something. Now he has a strong suspicion about who the traitor is, the one who will eventually betray them during the subjugation. And just like that, the subquest begins. He decides the first move should be to eliminate the most rotten part of the village. Inside the village office, Gra's butler pores over the records. Initially, he wasn't the least bit concerned about Nox, having heard that the boy was just a useless brat. But now, to think that he himself had fallen for the swordsman's scheme and lost Grain's favor, that infuriates him. He had gone to great lengths to win Grain's approval, and now he's determined not to let Nox off so easily. As he descends the stairs, he spots Lavilia and shoots her a filthy glare. He's well aware that she's a commoner. Without warning, he grabs her hand and yanks her toward him. She asks sharply if he has any business with her. He stares at her and replies that he has plenty of business with her. Then, with a twisted smile, he tells her it's nothing serious. He just wants to have a little chat. The moment hangs heavy between them. She immediately pulls her hand away and says she doesn't believe there's anything they need to discuss alone. He regrets his haste for a moment, but justifies it to himself, thinking that even though he's a knight serving a master, he still deserves to enjoy himself. This time he places his hand on her shoulder and asks if she really thinks the same way. Levelia shouts for him to let her go, but in that moment she hesitates. If she outright rejects him now, her young master Nox might fall out of favor with young master Grain. That could bring him trouble or attract unwanted attention from the family. She doesn't want Nox to suffer because of her. The butler growls that thanks to her master, he has lost more than 10 years of hard-earned progress, and now she's going to pay the price for that. Suddenly, Nox appears and slices off his arm. Coldly, he asks the butler if he wants something, then he'll pay for it. He follows up by asking him again with a deadly calm how he'd like to pay. The butler collapses in pain, screaming, and demands to know what Nox thinks he's doing. He insists that not even Nox can get away with something like this. He threatens him, asking if he really believes that young Master Grain will stand by and let this happen. The swordsman glares at him and asks if he's seriously threatening him with his brother. Without another word, he severs the man's other hand. The butler wails that this is all wrong, and even though Nox has his family behind him, this is going too far. But Nox tells him that he's not the one acting out of place because of family backing. Then, without hesitation, he steps forward and kills the butler. Lavilia is clearly shaken. She looks at him in horror and asks what he just did, warning him that Grain won't let this go. At that moment, Graham arrives with his guards and surveys the scene in disbelief. He asks his brother if he truly killed Schultz, the butler. Nox answers plainly that he did. Grain's fury explodes. He accuses Nox, someone he considers good for nothing, of daring to claim that he cut down his knight. Nox explains that GRA has the sequence of events wrong, and questions why he's not first asking for the details of what happened. Grabs him by the collar and demands to know why he killed Schultz. If there isn't a justifiable reason, he warns Knox won't escape punishment. Knox responds that he overheard Schultz attempting to sexually harass his maid. As her master, how could he possibly stand by and let that happen? But Gray shouts back that it was over something so minor. After all, she's just a commoner. Knox stares at him and asks if he realizes what he just said. Can he take responsibility for that? Suddenly, a massive surge of mana bursts out from Knox's body, and it startles Grain. He wonders in shock if this is really Knox's power. Could this so-called good-for-nothing younger brother actually be that talented? Knox smirks and reminds him. Has he forgotten that he's their family's famed disgrace? Grain stumbles back, visibly shaken. Knox tells him that he isn't the kind who reports or waits for permission. He suggests they leave the resolution of this matter to their father once they return to the estate. GRA agrees, albeit reluctantly, to let their father decide how to handle the situation. Knox instructs Lavilia to leave with him, and the two of them walk away. Left behind, Grain stares at his retreating brother and wonders since when did he become so powerful. That sword he was holding. He's sure he's seen it somewhere before. With narrowed eyes, he resolves not to underestimate Knox during the subjugation mission. Both Knox and his maid step outside to the well, and he reflects silently, thinking there will soon be quite a ruckus among the soldiers. The military ranks are already fractured into different factions, and now they've reached a critical juncture, a point where they must make a decision. He wonders whether they'll choose to follow his brother or side with him instead. He turns to Lavilia and asks if she's all right. She responds with a firm nod, confirming that she is. Then, with concern in her voice, she asks if her master will be okay, and wonders aloud why he did what he did. If this incident gets blown out of proportion, it will only result in more enemies being added to his list. And if that happens, he'll find himself in danger once again. In response, he questions her. Does she even know what kind of person the master she serves truly is? He is the so-called good-for-nothing of the Reinhofer family, which means no matter where they are, she must never bow her head. She acknowledges this and assures him that she will keep it in mind. That night, Grain lies in his bedroom brooding. He thinks about his younger brother. How dare that worthless brat attempt to rise above him? Back when their father first placed Knox under his care, he'd thought of him as nothing more than an annoying responsibility. But now that they're out here involved in this mission, Knox is proving to be completely different from the weakling he imagined. His thoughts shift to the sword Knox wields, and he considers the possibility that its resemblance to their father's blade might just be a coincidence. Even so, he understands he must stay vigilant, and now that Schultz is gone, he wonders to himself, who can he trust now to keep a close eye on his brother? A servant enters the room and announces that the situation on the first floor has been taken care of. He also mentions that young Master Knox is not at all like the rumors they've heard. GRA, who is clearly drunk, slurs his words as he responds. He tells the servant that Knox isn't the only one who's different. He himself has changed as well. Then he looks at the man and questions him. Wasn't he supposed to be the captain of a night order that's operated in this area for a long time? Grain even conducted a background check to confirm it. So how could someone like Knox, who has only studied books all his life, be more familiar with this place than he is? He accuses the servant of incompetence and reminds him that he didn't pay such a hefty sum for such a sloppy job. Thinking to himself again, Grain notes that since the monster wave hasn't even started yet, he may as well put this night order to some use. He orders the servant to make sure all the bandits and monsters in the surrounding area are wiped out, and if Knox begins acting suspiciously or behaves strangely, he is to be informed right away. The servant respectfully obeys his master's command and leaves. Meanwhile, on the other side, Lavilia turns to her master and asks him about his actions during the day. She wants to know whether he inspected the village walls. He responds that he did take a look and remarks that they're barely holding together. She wonders how they could possibly defend against a monster wave with such poor fortifications. He instructs her to follow him. As she trails behind him, she grows puzzled, thinking about how they're moving in the opposite direction from their inn. She asks where they're going. Knox explains that he's thinking of recruiting a new person into their team. Even in a small village like this, he says there's bound to be at least one genius. He reveals that the person's name is Alina. She's a character he makes sure to recruit every time he comes to Chhatters, a genius potion maker. In essence, she becomes his potion shuttle. As they walk through the dimly lit streets, Lavilia turns to him and asks if there could really be a genius potion maker hidden in such a shabby and remote place. He replies without hesitation that there is. She frowns and says she doesn't understand. If Alina is truly so talented, then there shouldn't be any reason for her to be hiding out in a place like this. He tells her that Alina has her own reasons. In truth, he knows that the reason is tied to the hidden route required to clear Chhatters. Because in the future, Alina will end up working for someone else instead of the Archemy Empire. And if one doesn't clear Chhatters through the hidden route, they'll never have the chance to recruit her. As they approach a turn, he warns Lavilia to keep her eyes on the path so she doesn't trip. She listens carefully and continues following close behind. They enter a small, run-down building. Inside, they find a young woman sitting in a chair, sipping wine. She mutters to herself, clearly annoyed, saying that she can't believe she's stuck in a place like this. Then she looks up at Nox and asks how she ended up like this. He gazes at her and says, "I found you, my potion maker." Alina's eyes widen in surprise, and she quickly asks him who he is. Livia is stunned and turns to her master in disbelief, saying that the genius potion maker he talked about is a drunkard. Alina stands up and apologizes, explaining that she didn't realize they were from a reputable family. Nox assures her that it's fine and that aside from that, he's here because there's something important he wants to discuss. He urges her to stay focused. In his mind, he already knows who she is. At this point in the story, Alina is a genius character with the highest potential for growth, a rare talent in potion making. He must recruit her, even if she does come with a few flaws. He quickly checks her full information through his system and feels a little disappointed, but it's not surprising. After all, the kinds of genius characters that someone like the Reinhofer family's disgrace can recruit aren't always the most perfect. Still, she's far from ordinary. She's a truly valuable potion maker. Turning to his maid, he tells her that Alina may be a bit of a problem, but they don't have any better options right now. Lavilia, clearly uneasy, whispers into his ear that she knows it may be out of line to say so, but she doesn't think recruiting a drunkard is a wise decision. He calmly explains to her that he's well aware of that, but at this point they have no other choice. She sighs and replies that she guesses it must be more complicated than she thought. Suddenly Alina stands up and questions Nox. Why has he come looking for her? He decides to be direct. "I'll get straight to the point," he says, and offers her a place by his side. He tells her that if she chooses to follow him, he will give her exactly what she needs the most. He observes her reaction and sees that she's confused. Alina declines his offer politely. She explains that there's something she must do here, and for that reason, she can't leave. She apologizes sincerely. He asks her whether that something is related to her friend May that visibly startles her. She asks how he knows that name. Nox then reveals a crucial truth. In the near future, May will be executed. But if Alina accepts his offer, there's a chance he can save her. He asks her if that possibility has changed her mind, even just a little. Alina's friend raises her voice publicly against the government's taxes. She openly tells the establishment that people are dying here. And although the imperial family is already sending soldiers and funds, the walls have still not been repaired. She publicly calls out Tegan, demanding answers. She was Alina's only friend, and Alina would have preferred that it had been her who was dragged away instead. She admits to herself that she cannot rescue her friend alone. Even so, she doubts whether Nox will be able to save her either. The thought of her friend lingers, and it becomes hard for her to forget her for a long time. At the bar, some soldiers are talking about Grain. One of them asks who he is, and another replies by calling him an idiot. He goes on to say that Gray actually believed they were a legitimate Night Order, even though they were only pretending. He accepted it all without the slightest suspicion. Another soldier remarks that the whole situation came about by coincidence, but it turned out well for them. He says it was worth ransacking the Ron Night Order's quarters, as they even managed to get their hands on gold badges. With those badges, they can now go after even bigger jobs. He adds that if they show this badge to the Reiner family, the family will assume he's the captain of the Ron Night Order and will grant him benefits fitting someone of that rank. Yet another man comments that while things did happen by coincidence, it's quite amusing that their names are exactly the same. The first soldier grins, and suggests that if they take Grain hostage, they could probably get a sizable ransom for him. They turn to one of the quieter soldiers, the one who usually keeps to himself, and ask him what he thinks, reminding him that this involves a member of the Reinhardt family. The quiet soldier hesitantly asks if it's really okay to do something like that, since they're talking about the most powerful among the three dark families in the region. He also wonders aloud if there are any bandit groups that ever survived after crossing them. The other three soldiers stare at him. One of them scoffs, calls him an idiot, and says that's exactly why everyone calls him a coward. He then demands to know if he even understands where they are. He explains to him that this is Chhatters, an area so forsaken that even the imperial family has given up on it. Well, now they make up their minds. They agree that they'll take Grain hostage, collect the ransom, and then flee to the east. One of them remarks that no matter how influential the Reinhardt family may be, they won't be able to do anything here in an enemy nation surrounded by sand. He tells his comrades that all they have to do is seek asylum, and then they can enjoy a life of luxury. The others agree, having expected such a plan from their captain. Then the anxious soldier nervously brings up Knox. He reminds them they'll have to deal with him too. The captain agrees and acknowledges that Knox is indeed a dangerous individual. He says Knox has a persistent personality and instructs the others to warn the rest of the group not to get involved with him until they've wrapped things up here. One of the soldiers laughs and tells the captain that Knox is just a kid, and he thinks worrying about him is unnecessary. The rest laugh along with him and start drinking. Suddenly, someone extinguishes the lamps in the bar. Everyone immediately tenses, wondering what just happened. The captain tries to calm his men, but then he suddenly feels blood splash onto his face. They all notice that one of their comrades has been killed. Panic sets in, as they assume it's an enemy raid on the village. The captain freezes in shock when he notices a man standing right behind him. That man asks why he's speaking so rudely. It's Knox. The young swordsman has just killed one of the soldiers. He demands to know why they're hiding in this hole like rats, and how they dare try to rob the Reiner family. He tells them that they've clearly overestimated themselves. Captain Vermin quickly tries to defuse the situation, insisting that Knox must be mistaken about something. But Knox cuts him off and declares that he already knows about the various crimes they've committed, including the misappropriation of funds alongside Tigan. He also reveals that he's aware of their plan to use Grain for their own gain. Captain Vermin asks him what he wants, urging him to think carefully. He proposes that if Knox allows them to get rid of Grain, it would actually benefit him. He would gain a better position within his own family. He tells Knox that all he has to do is look the other way this one time and advises him not to take any unnecessary risks. The soldiers all draw their swords, and the captain accuses Knox of pretending to speak nobly while clearly harboring murderous intent. Knox strikes again, killing another soldier. He turns to the rest and asks if they really think anyone would be foolish enough to believe such lies. One of the soldiers shouts for the others to kill him, and they all charge at once. But the young swordsman is far faster and more skilled than any of them. Within seconds, he slaughters every last one. The captain is stunned. He wonders whether Knox has been hiding his true abilities all along. Realizing how dangerous he is, he decides this must end now. He draws his sword and warns Knox that he's only dying because of his own arrogance. He then unleashes the Southern Sword technique, exclusive to the captain, but Knox is unfazed. He tells the captain that he's more simple-minded than expected. The system immediately confirms that Knox, as a genius swordsman, has completely nullified the enemy's attack. The captain is shocked and demands to know how Knox managed to stop the Chhatters sword technique. Now it's Knox's turn to mock him. He calls the captain a lowly vermin and asks how he dares question him about what he wants. As the battle intensifies, Knox successfully learns the Southern sword technique for himself. The system confirms it, and it's exactly what he was after. A question comes to his mind. What does it mean to be a genius? He remembers himself walking alone and wonders, does being a genius just mean that one is more exceptional than others? And if that's not it, then does it mean someone who has proven that they can reach a level that most people cannot reach? In that moment, as he risks his life, he keeps asking himself that same question over and over again. What does it mean to be a genius? Compared to the sword techniques that he will be learning in the future, this might not seem like much, but even so, this much would be enough. For now, it would be enough for them. It's about the Chhatters' southern sword technique. The captain thinks about how this sword technique had taken him more than 10 years of his life to master. He wonders how a kid like him knows it. Now Vermin is on the ground, on his knees, terrified, scared of death. He warns our boy that if he kills him, Tien won't let him get away with it, and he might have already heard about what he has done. Our hero tells him that there aren't any witnesses who have seen Nox kill him. Vermin shouts that everyone here who is still alive will see it. Nox tells him to listen carefully, that he is simply assassinating them, guys, and he says that it seems like he still doesn't get it, that if no one lives to tell the tale, then this will only look like an assassination. And that's what the world will believe, and he kills Vermin. In the jail, Tigan asks May if she is saying that she doesn't want to work and that she doesn't want to be sold off to the other nobles. And after taking so much beating, she replies to him that there is no way she will listen to people like him. He tells her that there is nothing she can do right now, and that the only thing someone as lowly as she is can do is to struggle on the ground. Her arms and legs are chained to the wall of her prison cell, but even then she tries to struggle, and he wonders what she thinks she is doing. He slaps her across the face and asks her if she wants to be sold to the Black Mage. May remembers her childhood when her teacher tells her that she did her best, but she got the mixture wrong this time as well, and this is a matter of aptitude. She also tells May that she thinks she doesn't have any talent in this area, and she was confused about how to do it. She had zero talent from the start, not in alchemy, nor in swordsmanship, nor in anything else for that matter. And Alina was totally the opposite of her. Their teacher tells Alina that she no longer has anything else to teach her, and wonders how could they have someone as talented as her in the countryside. Her teacher tells Alina that if only she was not a war orphan, but from a noble family, even if it was a low-ranked one, and if she could at least get out of the orphanage, she remembers that Alina was an alchemy genius, and she seemed like someone who did not belong in this place from the start. She had a sparkle around her and was constantly shining. Despite that, she was her best friend, and Alina was always nice to her. She remembers that her bright smile had caused her to feel helplessly envious of her, and that's why she had decided to sacrifice herself instead of her, because she was certain that Alina could accomplish way more than someone like her ever could. She knows that struggling on the ground was the norm for her all her life. May tells Tegan that whatever he wants to do after her death is none of her business. She even sticks her tongue out to taunt him. She doesn't want to become Alina's burden. Tien gets angry and slaps her so hard that her mouth starts bleeding and calls her A and tells her to stop trying to harm herself. Suddenly, our hero enters there and tells him that if he makes it out of this place as a corpse, Alina will be sad. Tien wonders what brings the young master here. Nox tells him that by the law of the imperial family he will be executed. Nox informs him that his partner, Ron Vermin, is also dead and advises that it would be in his best interest to surrender. Now, Tien reacts with a flicker of sadness and calls it an unfortunate mishap. He then asks the young master whether he came here alone. The swordsman responds with a firm nod of affirmation. That answer brings a twisted smile to Tigan's face. He tells him that it seems the noble family's young heir has severely underestimated him. He questions whether Nox truly believes he can defeat him single-handedly. The swordsman replies without hesitation, saying he doesn't see why not. Drawing his sword, Tien remarks that events are unfolding faster than he anticipated, but insists that it no longer matters. He calls for his soldiers, and within seconds, countless troops surround the lone warrior. Tigan then gives a cold command, "Kill Nox." Analyzing the situation swiftly, the young master activates the Hour of the Genius skill. He now has exactly 5 minutes to eliminate them all. He moves at such blistering speed that in just 2 seconds he slaughters every last soldier, and in the following instant he knocks Tien unconscious. The system notifies him that 4 minutes and 55 seconds remain. Without wasting a moment, he makes her drink a potion and softly speaks his name to her. He assures her that when she awakens from her slumber, everything will already be over. Tigan regains consciousness, only to realize they've been utterly defeated. As he glances around, he sees the bodies of all his soldiers lying motionless on the ground. Nox tells him not to expect death to come so easily. With chilling precision, he severs both of Tigan's legs from the knees. Tigan stares up at him in disbelief. struggling to comprehend whether this is truly happening, that he, the great Taiyan, was defeated by a mere boy. In that moment, Knox once again reflects on the question that haunts him. What does it mean to be a genius? He tells Taigan that it's not him, but the character Knox, who is the true genius. Tien stares up at him in disbelief, struggling to comprehend whether this is truly happening, that he, the great Tien, was defeated by a mere boy. In that moment, Knox once again reflects on the question that haunts him. What does it mean to be a genius? He tells Tigon that it's not him, but the character Knox, who is the true genius. Tien remembers his father. He was the most outstanding person in the village. Every man aspired to be like him, and everyone showed him respect. He recalls a moment when his father was beating his mother. During that violent act, his father looked at young Tigan and asked if he knew why the people in the village followed him. At the time, Tigan, still a child, had no idea. His father grabbed him by the hair and told him it was because of his strength. He claimed that if someone possessed overwhelming strength, then they could do anything they wanted and still get away with it. That, he said, was the law in a city located on the borders of the Archime Empire. Young Taigan asked him if he was the strongest person on the continent. His father let go of his hair and answered that he was not. He told him that even he was merely one of the countless nobodies scattered across the continent. He explained that there were numerous swordsmen across the land, unbelievably strong ones, and that there were also many children around Taigan's age who were far more powerful than him. They were geniuses, prodigies that surpassed him even at a young age. That, he said, was the reality of a continent consumed by war. The reason he had managed to survive, he told his son, was simply because he chose not to fight those monsters. Now Taigan looks at Knox and tells him that he must be one of those unreachable geniuses his father spoke of, so incredibly talented that no one else could ever reach his level. That, he says, is what it means to be truly gifted. And then he tells the young master that the only reason he is dying now is because he chose to fight him. After hearing that, Knox kills Tegan. Alina is sitting alone in her laboratory looking sad and withdrawn when she sees her friend May walk in, accompanied by Levia. At first, Alina is shocked to see her. Then she suddenly jumps out of her chair and runs to hug her. Both Alina and May begin crying. Alina tells her that she was terrified. She genuinely thought that May had left her for good. May holds her and gently comforts her, telling her that it's all right and that she's sorry for everything that happened in the past. She admits that she had been selfish and wrong to think she could go through everything on her own while leaving Alina behind in this place. May then glances at Lavilia and begins to think about the young master. She wants to thank him properly. Lavilia tells them that her master should be wrapping up the situation right now and is probably having a conversation. Alina tilts her head and wonders aloud what she means by conversation. Lavilia responds that she thinks he's taking a moment to have a heart-to-heart talk with his brother. However, she also knows this might not be his true intention. GRA sits in his office waiting for Vermin. He glances at the clock and wonders how much longer he's going to keep him waiting. He's visibly irritated and hopes that nothing bad has happened. Suddenly, Knox walks in and asks if he is available for a moment. He says he needs to talk and emphasizes that it's important. GRA asks him why he would want to talk to him specifically. Knox repeats that the matter is important. At that moment, Gray notices blood on Knox's shirt. After a brief pause, Gray finally tells him to take a seat. A few days later, Rodwell reads out a letter to Tio. He informs him that they've received a message stating that young Master Knox has purged the corruption within the Chhatters. The letter also says that Knox has administered appropriate punishment to those involved. Rodwell then tells Teo that Knox has submitted a request for a separate reward for completing that task. However, he apologizes and admits that he is unable to figure out what the request truly means. Tiao takes the letter from him and thinks about the situation. He reflects on how the corruption in that region had worsened day by day, but no one had ever bothered to intervene. The reason, he concludes, is simple, because there was no profit to be made. However, he also knows it's not that simple. That region has always been a major headache for the imperial family. The eastern part of Chhatters, he thinks, is the final line of defense. If that region were to fall, the monsters would start marching toward the central territories. He knows that the central government has already allocated a large amount of funds, troops, and even hired mercenary corps to protect the surrounding regions. Chhatters may be a useless wasteland in terms of value, but it cannot be completely abandoned. That he believes is what kind of place Chhatters really is, a territory with no inherent value, but one they cannot afford to lose. Teo then tells Rodwell that all the bandit groups in the area, including Vermin and Tigan, are extremely dangerous. Even someone like Grain would have trouble dealing with them. Rodwell nods in agreement with his master. He then asks what would happen if Vermin's bandits launched an attack. In that case, the situation would likely spiral out of control. He adds that if they can't overcome a situation of that level, then they don't deserve to be called part of the Reiner family in the first place. He reminds Teo that he had already stationed the Black Sword Knights with them, not only to prevent their deaths, but also to ensure they had proper protection. Then Rodwell circles the conversation back to Nox. Teo says what he finds hard to understand is why Nox would purge that corruption without any personal gain. He doesn't believe Nox has a generous heart. He's not the type to do something so extreme without a motive. The same applies to his request concerning Chhatters. Nox is seeking authority over that wasteland, and Teo knows it. Teo then wonders aloud what Nox could possibly hope to gain from a place like that. He points to the letter again, highlighting the line where KNX writes that if he cannot deliver results, then he will willingly give up his rights as the youngest son of the Reiner family. Rodwell asks if Teo intends to reject the proposal. Teo replies that he will accept it. He explains that if Nox is truly able to defeat all of those enemies, then he deserves to be granted jurisdiction over the territory. He believes that this might actually be a good opportunity to see how capable Nox is when it comes to managing a region. Rodwell listens and nods in understanding. He tells his master that he will send a letter to the Empire and begin the negotiations to acquire control over the Chhatters. Teo instructs him to proceed. Then Teo looks down at the letter again, deep in thought, and wonders just how far ahead Nox is planning. At the Chhatters' estate, Gray asks Nox if what he's saying is true, that Ron and Tien intended to kill him, and that Nox was once their underling. The young master replies that unfortunately it's the truth. Grain grows upset, troubled by the thought that their family had already verified their identities. What infuriates him even more is the realization that they tried to leech off him by deceiving the Reiner family. Nox notices the way Grain is looking at him and questions him about it, wondering if he's scared of him. Gray finds it almost amusing that Nox genuinely wants to provoke him, but he chooses to restrain himself for now. He knows that if he fails this test, he cannot become a knight. In the end, he has no choice but to accept his brother's proposal. He reins in his anger and asks what it is that Nox wants. Nox, unsurprised, comments that GRA is quick to weigh the pros and cons. He then informs his brother that he doesn't want much. The first thing he wants is command over all the soldiers under Grain's authority. Grain agrees, knowing that even if he refuses, his life is already in Nox's hands. Though he doesn't want to admit it, he still doesn't know exactly how strong Nox really is. GRA makes a condition in return. Nox must guarantee his life and yield the outcome of this conflict to him. Nox immediately points out that guaranteeing his life and yielding the outcome are two entirely separate demands. After hearing that, GRA changes the offer. He will hand over the mineral rights and artifacts from his large mine instead, and advises Nox to make sure everything is handled properly. Nox tells him it's a small price to pay in comparison to his life, and warns him not to think of it as too much of a waste. Graders silently if, while Nox stays in Chhatters, he'll be under his care. He hopes his brother won't do anything reckless. Meanwhile, in Alina's laboratory, Alona and May are reading some papers. Alina tells them that she has never made a metallization potion or a corroding potion before, but she believes it's possible. Nox is satisfied with her answer. Lavilia, however, expresses her concern, questioning whether everything will truly be all right, since his plan is incredibly dangerous. She admits that, as an ordinary maid, it might not be her place to ask, but wonders aloud if there's a real reason why he needs to kill the griffin. May agrees with her, adding that they cannot afford to lose their hero in vain. Nox tells them not to be afraid. If it were impossible, he would never have brought it up in the first place. Deep down, he understands their fear, but since he cannot reveal that there's something vital he needs to acquire after slaying the griffin, he has no choice but to lie. He simply tells them that he's thought everything through and asks them not to question it any further. Livia assures him that she'll do her best to prepare everything he needs. He reflects that killing the griffin and Chhatters at the beginning of the game is practically impossible, and no one has succeeded in doing so. At least that's true when they exclude him. With that in mind, he begins to explain the plan to the girls. He makes it clear that he won't repeat himself, so they must listen carefully. He reveals to them the hidden route and explains that defeating the griffin through normal play isn't possible. The path is concealed, only revealed to so-called stagnant water gamers, and he is one of them, a veteran who has cleared Inner Lunatic 26 times. After outlining the entire strategy, he asks if they all understand. All three respond affirmatively. He concludes the briefing and tells them they'll move forward with the plan tomorrow. The next day, while feeding his horse, Nox reflects that unless he's willing to stake his life, he won't survive because Inner Lunatic, the world he's transmigrated into, is just that kind of place. Suddenly, a swarm of monsters charges toward the village's outer wall. Nox climbs up to the ramparts to observe the incoming horde and commands everyone to prepare for battle. He reminds his soldiers that they only have one chance. Grain, watching the scene unfold, finds the moment strangely refreshing. Nox, meanwhile, acknowledges that he has become not just Nox, but the sole strategist. His mate asks if he'll truly be all right. Nox tells her to trust her master. He's not going to die. With that, he draws his sword and leaps from the wall like a superhuman, hurling a potion at a large monster. The system announces that he has slain the iron golem, and his proficiency in the Chhatters' southern sword technique has increased. He reminds himself that without that promise anchoring him, he might actually die. That's why he's determined to turn these monsters into stepping stones. With that thought, he charges at the horde and his soldiers rally behind him. Suddenly, he spots the griffin among the monsters. A thrill runs through him. He thinks to himself, "Shall we get started?" Griffin locks his eye on the young master and heads straight toward him. The swordsman wonders if he is dreaming. Alina tells the others that she has never seen any knight capable of fighting like that, and she questions whether such feats are even humanly possible. May responds that although she didn't expect him to be good, to think he's so fast that their eyes can barely keep up with his movements is shocking. She also wonders aloud what kind of place the Reinher family truly is. Lavilia explains that it's a family famous for its swordsmanship, and also known as a place where internal battles are held to determine who is worthy of inheriting the Black Sword. That she emphasizes is the nature of the Reinher family. They all stand on the top floor of the castle, watching the battle unfold below. Nilia adds that one could also say her Master Nukes is the most talented among all the candidates. All this talk gives Master Grain a headache, as he stands alongside them at the top floor of the fortress. She reflects that she still doesn't understand why young Master Nox refuses to address the negative rumors surrounding him. Yet she feels certain he must have his reasons. May speculates that not all the rumors are true and observes that it seems like he has his own reasons. Reasons that require him to act like a good-for-nothing. She admits she has no idea what those reasons might be. Lavilia agrees with her and asks her to please play along because she's confident there's a good reason behind his behavior. After all, she says he is a wise person. Alina then asks if she's expected to hide who he really is. Both May and Alina assure Lavilia that they will keep their lips sealed. GRA and the rest of the soldiers grow tense as they see the young master standing face to face with the griffin. Even from the safe height of the castle wall, the sight is frightening. Grain wonders whether Nox truly intends to fight that monster, and concludes that his brother must be out of his mind. On the ground, Nox and the griffin begin their clash. Grain watches with anger as his younger brother bravely engages the creature. Regardless of how he feels, he knows he must follow through with the plan. He orders all his troops to wait until the griffin comes within close range of the fortress walls. Once it does, they are to fire the ballistas upon his command. The soldiers follow his orders. When the griffin flies close to the fortress, Grain gives the order and the ballistas are launched. They manage to hit it in the wing, causing the beast to crash to the ground. Nox understands that in order to defeat the griffin, they must neutralize his absurd flight ability. He quickly consumes the metallization potion, and the system confirms that his stamina has temporarily increased by 1. He feels relieved, knowing he had already made the necessary preparations in advance. He remembers when he first instructed his brother to build the ballistas. Grain had shouted at him for asking him to do something so lowly, arguing that they could assign that task to someone else. Knox responded that if that was the case, then Graham himself would have to fight the griffin on the battlefield. Upon hearing that, GRA suddenly changed his mind and asked how many ballistas Knox needed. Now, as Knox approaches the fallen griffin, he thinks to himself that he knew Grain had good instincts. He believes his brother will be useful. The only things left now are the effects of Elena's potion and the chance to prove himself. Suddenly, the griffin tries to take flight, but quickly crashes back to the ground due to its injured wing. The young master mocks it, asking whether it feels frustrated now that things aren't going its way. He understands why. It's because normally such an injury would mean nothing to a creature like the griffin. And since it is the griffin, a Heil monster, it should have shrugged it off. But the ballista that pierced its wing had been coated with massive amounts of the poison that the creature despises most. Knox tells the griffin to look forward to what's coming next. He warns it that the real pain will begin in about 5 minutes, and 5 minutes is all he needs. As the griffin attempts to grab him with its claw, Knox thinks to himself that this is definitely different from the game. However, he also knows one thing. He won't be the one who dies here, at least not today. He launches an attack with his sword. He signals to his brother. Grain stares in disbelief, wondering whether this is truly the same Knox he once knew. After receiving the signal, he turns and orders the soldiers to fire more ballistas at the monster. Every single shot lands perfectly. Now the time has come for Nukes to finish this. The griffin cries out in agony and begins limping toward him. The young master activates his black execution, and with a single powerful swing of his sword, he slices off one of the creature's legs. Without hesitation, he follows up with another slash. Cleaving the griffin in two across its belly, the system promptly notifies him that he has gained 60 days after defeating the griffin. His total remaining lifespan now stands at 179 days. Everyone watching from the castle, soldiers, commoners, and his 3 companions cheers in celebration, shouting his name. Their voices rise together in admiration. Countless other monsters scatter and flee after witnessing the fall of the mighty griffin. He feels quite satisfied now. However, his brother stares in disbelief, trying to understand how such a thing could have happened.